Hey ladies, Sass Pants Designs will take that rock shirt that everyone has and make it your own in a flattering, sassy, and simple way. There are one-of-a-kind tank tops, lace-up tees, and tube top dresses already in stock. Check out the online store at sasspantsdesigns.com and like Sass Pants Designs on Facebook for special offers and custom orders. That's sasspantsdesigns.com, sasspantsdesigns.com. Sass Pants will make you the envy of the party.
Rockwood Saloon Authentic Apparel takes rock and roll fashion to a new level with their tees and tanks for men and women. They also make custom shirts, jackets, vests, pants, hoodies, beanies, and more. The Rockwood Graphics Department can design anything from your logo, t-shirt design, promo posters, band swag, and printed at great prices. From tour shirts and custom stage gear to killer threads for the street to the stage, Rockwood Saloon has it all. Rockwood Saloon, authentic rock and roll apparel for stage and street. World Tour tested for quality, comfort, style, and durability. Check them out at www.rockwoodsaloon.com.
Hi, this is Bobby Brown, and welcome to another fucking podcast.
You kids with your loud music and your Dan Fogelberg, your Zima, hula hoops, and Pac-Man video games, don't you see? People today have attention spans that can only be measured in nanoseconds.
See, son, old legends never die. They just lose weight.
Like a legend and an outer-world bum with a lot of light.
Yes, Courtney, it is party time. Hello, Hollywood. Hello, world. And hello, my loyal minions. It is good to see you, and as always, good to be seen. My name is Izzy Presley, and welcome to another fucking podcast. Big show this week. Sitting right next to me is the one and only Hal Sparks. I say good day to you, sir.
Good day to you.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be had.
It's been a long time in the making. It's been about a year almost, I think.
That's right, since we first got the brain seed to give this a try.
You said seed.
That's true. It's true. It'll happen again, I think.
Well, of course. I look forward to that. Welcome to the show. Please check out the sponsors. You heard a couple spots, and one that you did not hear is for beater amplification. Hal just plugged into it. I got it sitting right here in the room, and it sounds fucking killer.
That was mostly my playing, though.
Yeah, it was mostly your playing.
Pretty good stuff.
It's not bad. I mean, you're playing Kiss riffs. I mean, how
That's
bad
true.
could it be?
I also played Crying in the Rain.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Because that's my go-to when you have a three-pickup Les Paul, kind of like, or, kind of standard Les Paul sound is that John Sykes, but somewhere between John Sykes and Ace Frehley is the raw tone of a Les Paul hanging on its own.
Yep, and it's
without
beautiful.
much affectation.
And you don't need it.
Nope.
Personally,
Yeah.
I don't think. So yeah, check out Beater Amplification. It's BEETER. They are hand-wired, and they are fucking beautiful. It sounds killer, and it's 100 watts, but you pull two plugs, and it's a 50. It's fucking great. I love it. Because you don't need 100 watts.
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
yes, you do. You do.
That's an excellent point.
It's good to always have. It's better to have it than not have it, especially if you got a bad neighbor in your apartment building and you're trying to drive them out over time. I mean, I think that's the, just you got to protect yourself, and an amp is a great way to do it. That and feng shui are your only two real weapons.
I've never looked at it that way. I've always just thought, 100 watts, you don't need 100 watts. But now that you put it that way, it's like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm going to pop two of those.
100 watts is a weaponized 50 watt. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like where you've taken the 50 watt and you've gone, this violates the Geneva Conventions now, as far as people living close to each other. Also, if you really need help and you live in the mountains, like way away from somebody, you can't scream that loud. But you go.
That's an excellent point.
You go outside and play an emergency riff, or that old, like that big thing that was in the '80s, that dual note bend that sounds a little bit like a siren.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Play that, like your neighbors know that if they hear that, push the hogs aside and get over to help me. I've got marauders on the hill.
You do kind of need the Van Halen wang bar to pull it off correctly to get that harmonic right. And
I have to say whammy bar. I like
know.
that. Yeah, a wang bar makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
this coming from a guy who was on a show called Queer as Folk.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm over quota, I think. Is the phrase, whatever.
There you go. There you go. So check out Beater Amplification. Check me out on Twitter. The Twitter machine, Izzy_Presley. I'm on my quest for 1 million followers, currently at about 1,800 and something.
There you go.
Creeping up.
Absolutely.
It's getting there. It is getting there. You can support the show monetarily. You absolutely can do that. Izzy.Presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. Because, I mean, this shit's not free, but I still love doing it.
Absolutely.
Because, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Also, social media-wise, it is on Facebook, facebook.com/another effing podcast. And, of course, my entertainment page, which is Izzy Presley 1 on Facebook. Find out everything that I am doing, like, for instance, this Wednesday, Soundcheck Live at Lucky Strike right here in Hollywood.
There you go.
Yeah, well, you still got to come down and play that sometime.
I know. It's funny because we just did. They kind of moved a version of that over to the whiskey, right? Yep. And we did my band opened for the Aussie night just maybe 2 weeks ago. And Doug played. Our dear friend Doug Pinnock.
Yes.
Played and sang on a song or two. I think he did 2 songs that night. And so we will definitely get in the rung. Right now, we're recording. The band's working on. I've got 2 new songs that I'm doing vocals for next week. And when I do stand up, I have to take like 2 weeks off before I can get back to singing. Because stand-up is damaging to my voice.
Right, because you're talking.
Yeah, well, music doesn't matter. Like, I know the notes I'm hitting.
Right.
I know, technique is very easy to maintain when you're singing. But when it's stand-up, the variance of the way you speak, sometimes a joke needs to be yelled, sometimes it needs to be whispered, and it changes every show. And you're riding this, like, surf wave of the audience, and there's almost no way, and I'm sure there'll be some sort of Alexander technique asshole who else wants to discuss me.
No.
There's always got to be a technique that you can do, right?
Right.
And but I disagree, and I think it's just you just have to, when you're doing stand up, you just have to swing for the fences. And so after a weekend where I've done like 6 shows, I'm pretty battered. Whereas if I play with the band for 5 days in a row, I could do another one tomorrow.
Right.
It's weird, but it's true. Even though I sing pretty high and pretty, I do a decent amount of screaming.
Are you trying to tell me that people online might have an opinion about something?
Yeah, but I've always said if you tell me you don't have opinions are like assholes.
Right.
If you tell me you don't have one, I know you're full of shit.
Right. And but it's online. It almost it goes too far sometimes. Because
it's unchecked.
It's
there's
unchecked.
There's no variant. There's and the anonymity factor means that On the one hand, anonymity should give you the ability to, as Oscar Wilde said, give a man a mask and he will tell you the truth, because he's protected. He doesn't. The normal social means don't apply and all that kind of stuff. The difference is that most of the time, give a man a mask and he will tell you his truth. It's not exactly the same as genuine truth. It's just whatever that person's gripe is.
Right.
And unfortunately, we live currently in a very gripe-tastic society that. Where the biggest amount of griping comes from the people with the least amount of skill, where they've not cultivated a skill. They've oftentimes, curiously enough, found themselves painted into a corner of their own making, in their own lives, and then still have the nerve to lay out judgment on people who work for a living, including in the arts.
Right.
That's the weirdest part of it, is that and this is something, I have a political radio show I do every weekend.
Yeah.
I do, I'm clearly outspoken on Twitter and the like about politics. It's true. But I also had the Sexy Liberal tour that I did was the highest grossing comedy tour, of the 2 years we were doing it.
Really?
Yeah. So we earned our paycheck and we did our work and we did our due diligence, and that kind of show requires a lot of study and a lot of patience and a lot of crafting and all that. And there's this idea that, like, actors shouldn't talk about politics. I'm sick of hearing whatever. And you'd never hear an actor go, plumbers shouldn't talk about politics. The fuck do they know? But the reality is, and I think this is something that most people don't seem to consider, is that artists, specifically musicians and television artists and movie actors, have more have more need for a healthy middle class than almost any other industry. Because if you own Exxon, you don't give a fuck if anybody likes oil or likes gas. They need it to get to work. So fuck them. And you just ratchet that pay up to the the cost of it up to the absolute hurt point and keep it there. You know what I mean? Like, you just, because you sit on the oil, you get to dictate what's coming out. Whereas artists, it's all variable whether you can afford to come see me. People have to have an extra $20 in their pocket that they can spend on seeing a band,
right?
Or they can spend on seeing a comedian, or come to see a movie and buy popcorn and everything for the family. So there's this thing in the arts where we probably have more invested as artists in a big middle class than any other industry in the country, in a healthy, vibrant, well-to-do middle class, because poor people can't afford to buy tickets to go see any kind of show.
Right.
And rich people, I have no interest in being a court jester for a maniac. You know what I mean? Like it's the 13th century.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't need to be a stand-up getting, $50,000 a night for performing for 8 people who couldn't give a rat fuck about what I'm actually saying.
Right.
Or, it's absurd. And this is somebody who's done corporate gigs. I've done, these kind of big dollar corporate gigs. But that's not the art. That's a paycheck that you earn by being famous. Our friend Chris Jericho just came up on the monitor. He's a good man. We love Chris Jericho.
I never met him personally, but apparently he knows who I am.
Yeah, well, Chris knows nearly anybody in the rock world, especially. If you're a Kiss fan, he'll know who you are. He and I are both. I had a great moment with Chris. We were doing celebrity duets.
Uh-huh.
And he got bumped early because quite frankly, they fucked with him. They did it on purpose. They bumped him, and he has a great voice.
Oh yeah,
he should have gotten way farther, but they pimped him by giving him songs that weren't in his high range, that didn't show off how good a singer he is. So they thought it was just that he was selling it on personality. And here's this wrestler, how dare he? And so he got booted fairly early, which was totally unfair. He's a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. So Chris,
most Canadians I know are.
Yeah, right. This is true. We were just talking about Danko Jones before the show started,
That's
and
right.
what a good human he is. By the way, if you don't own a Danko Jones record, don't come to one of my shows. It's not healthy for you. So, band or stand-up, for that matter. Anyways, so Chris and I are standing on stage, and Little Richard was one of the judges on Celebrity Duets. Now, Little Richard is seen as certainly a talented musician, but a bit of a artistically, from a lot of people's point, almost a clown, like a person who's exaggerated personality to the point, to the point of just 24/7 sales or something. And
so he's like Gene Simmons.
He's perceived to be like Gene in some ways. Never mind the fact that Gene's a really good bass player, even when he doesn't practice.
He actually is.
Anybody who's played that long, it's like Weird Al Yankovic. The dude has chops on everything because his entire life he's been on stage.
Yeah.
He's got tinnitus because of it, and he can barely hear you when he's talking. He has to move his hair like the Bionic Woman when he's chatting with you. That's another thing. Whatever. We love Al, but so Chris and I are on stage, and Little Richard has a bad leg from an injury that happened in the 70s, where a stage collapsed and his piano fell on his leg, and it basically didn't heal right.
Holy shit.
Because back then, if you were a black person with an injury, they just kind of went walk it off. Mm-hmm. And Cheech Marin was actually, who was also on the show, was there when that happened. They opened at this outdoor festival. Cheech and Chong did a show, and then Little Richard played at like sundown. Stage collapses because of rain the night before, falls over, piano rests. Okay, so you will never see Little Richard coming and going from a stage. You will only see Little Richard already there. If it's in a commercial or a television appearance, think back to any time you've seen Little Richard, you have never seen him enter.
That's a good point.
There's a couple of people like that in the industry because they have, Roosevelt-like injuries.
Right.
Or illnesses where they can't do it. And he's one of those people. So we're on stage. We're supposed to all the celebrities on the show are going to do a song together with Little Richard. And there's a sound problem. And it's going to take about an hour to fix. Well, the audience is already loaded. Richard is not going to come in, and out in front of the audience. They've already set him, brought the audience in. He's stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all standing there just kind of, and he's left out there, so none of us are going to walk off and leave him standing there. We're all just kind of like, in a moment of solidarity, like we're all just going to stand here. Well, Little Richard starts playing the piano. And not Little Richard, fun Little Richard style, but the musician that he actually is under all that, right? He's like... It's the skill that exists because of him playing since he was 10 or something.
Yeah.
And he starts playing the blues, and his band, who was up there with him, is like bass, drums, and a trumpet player that he had, I think, with him, who tour with him, All white guys, by the way.
Of course.
But they all start playing with him like that. Just immediately. They all know what he's doing, and they've played together for so long, and they're so clicked that they just start riffing. Just, and he's not singing, he's just playing. And in that minute, in how he's playing, you realize that this incredibly flamboyant black man who is perceived, true or not, to be gay, through many elements of the American populace, drove around in the 50s and 60s in a station wagon or a big long car with a truck behind it, going honky-tonk to honky-tonk in the South, touring just to make a living in places where if they got pulled over in the wrong area, they're all fucking dead.
Yeah.
Especially him because of his loud mouth. Like, there were a bunch of people who couldn't wait to do him in. And they had to, watch where they were going, take special roads that everybody had cleared first. They'd have cars drive ahead of them just to make sure, and pull over and wave if there was a cop. They'd double back and then go slow down through here because this guy's, this is boss hog territory and all that shit. Just beautiful music coming out of this man. And you just are hit by the history of this like somebody hit you with a shovel.
Right.
So Chris Jericho and I are standing there watching this man play with a depth we never expected, and we're both crying. Both of us have tears running down our face. And it was just like, it was an interesting bonding moment for the two of us. And then Alfonso Ribeiro walks over, being a total poser in that moment. It was embarrassing. And just kind of stands next to us and goes, "Amazing, huh?" And Chris turns to him and goes, "Get the fuck away from me."
Oh, I fucking love it.
And I just, I love, like, we were both having this, like, genuine moment.
Yeah.
And this asshole comes over and tries to kind of...
Carlton.
Yeah, tries to skate on it. And not grasping the depth of what you're getting to watch. Because Little Richard, in sometime in the near future, probably in the next 20 years, will no longer be with us. End of story. And we're standing there in a genuinely musically historic moment next to Little Richard himself as he is playing what's in his heart in that moment. And to interrupt it, to show us that you somehow get it, is the most fucked up, rude, dismissive, shitty thing to do. That if we weren't on television, both of us probably would have beat him up.
Yeah.
Like, if it hadn't been filmed. But so Little Richard gets, mad props across the board from me, and he has complete license to be as legit or as fancy as he chooses to be in his life, as far as I'm concerned, because there is no judgment point in this. There's no, because and that's why I took that show. I mean, literally, I take reality shows only if I want the experience. I don't give a shit if the cameras were not rolling, would I still do it?
Right.
You know what I mean? If VH1 came to you and said, "We want you to learn how to dive with sharks," and you go, "I've always wanted to dive with sharks. I don't give a fuck if they're. Are you guys paying for this? Yeah,
yeah.
We'll pay for you to go to dive school, we'll buy all the gear. We're gonna take you to the fucking Bahamas and all this kind of. That's the reason to go. If they go, do you want to live in a house with a bunch of assholes and vie for the affection of someone you couldn't stand anyways, they can go pound sand.
Right.
Yeah, and celebrity duets was one of those where, like, I now get to say in my life that I not only sang with Sebastian Bach and Dee Snider, whom I now consider friends, but and Dennis DeYoung also from Styx.
Oh, wow.
But also Smokey Robinson and Gladys Knight. I did duets with both of them. And I get to that's on my permanent life resume now. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, dude, that's...
yeah.
Amber checks in. "Hey, man, don't badmouth Carlton. He's a badass." I'm assuming she's being sarcastic.
I'm assuming as well. But again, you're welcome to that opinion. Knock yourself out.
Right.
And to me, I just think there's a responsibility like that you have in the presence of certain artists, especially who've reached a level that And this, I'll even go, in terms of, like, we were kind of joking about it, even with Gene Simmons. Like, I remember hearing Gene at one point being interviewed, and they were asking him if he liked Spinal Tap. Mm-hmm. And he basically said, that movie's not funny at all. And what he meant was, we've been through that shit.
Right.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And most bands of that ilk who've been through that kind of stuff look at Spinal Tap with a certain level of PTSD.
Right. I had I used to be a sports writer back in Minneapolis, and I was covering a Twins game, and Rob Reiner was there. Mm-hmm. He was on a stadium tour.
Marty DeBerge himself.
He was on a stadium tour with his kid, trying all the hot dogs from all over the country. Perfect.
Right.
And we're walking right after the game. We're walking down the stairs at Metrodome, and he was right in front of me. And I'm like, I gotta ask. This is the only time I'm ever gonna have this opportunity. I'm sure he's been asked it 10 billion times already. What's your favorite response from a musician about Spinal Tap? He said, Sting said that it hurts so much, it was so real that he cried.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's boom. It's spot on.
Oh yeah. So I again, if they've got that much. All those stories about Sting and I guess Stuart Copeland, like, putting up his symbols so that he doesn't have to see him. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't hear about that. Yeah, all of his symbols are one side of his kit. If you ever watch him play, because I don't want to fucking see that guy, and I don't know how you get that mad at Sting. I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, but if I toured with him, maybe I would. Right. And that's where you get in the kind of the zone of it. And it may be a mix of shit he's actually done and jealousy because he is the standout. And both of those that's a rough cross section, because part of it is you, and part of it is him. And the stuff that's you want to go, well, fuck it, I shouldn't have to work on it because of the other shit that he did that's him. Right. So I give people a wide berth in this industry. Mm-hmm. I myself have been in work situations where I've had fellow performers that I won't work with again, because I've seen them be shitty to other people.
Right.
And that's where I draw the line. Like, for me, I can take it, right? I can take it.
Right.
And the only time that I've ever had, like, somebody fuck with me to the point where I was like, this requires a secondary response, is when it's a producer or a studio exec, because they have the power to dismiss you from your job. Mm-hmm. So that's, that's when it gets hostile workplace or whatever. If it's a fellow actor and they're just a broken piece of shit and they've got, this is what it takes to get them to work, and I have no investment in their future beyond the quality of the project we're doing, I get into maintenance mode like the director and anybody else, going, okay, how do we have to manipulate the circumstance, get the best performance out of this person?
Right.
If they can't remember their lines, if they're being a jerk or whatever, okay, maybe we can turn this into something. Maybe this changes the energy of the scene. Maybe you just do something. But but after that, when we're done, we're fucking done. We're done. And that's why, like, we were even talking about, Kiss before we came on the air too, because I'm a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah, oh, trust me, we'll probably spend an hour talking about Kiss now.
Yeah. And I remember when Peter left, and everybody, kind of, I think I was 11 or something, or maybe, I think I was like 10. Yeah. And people going, how could he? And they were so mean to him. And I remember seeing that interview, and I was like, oh, this is because Beth was a hit. Fuck this guy. I was 10.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
yeah.
This is just you failing to recognize the contribution of everybody around you and vocalizing your gripe by saying the other people fail to recognize your value. And at a certain point, you got to fucking tap the brakes in those moments.
Right. Did you like his solo record?
No.
Really?
No, I did not.
Not even now? Can't go back and listen to it?
No. I don't like honky-tonk rock, kind of like, it just doesn't appeal to me. I've been a metalhead since I bought my first Kiss album when I was 5. I bought the originals together in a chunk at a garage or a flea market.
Oh, wow.
In Friendship, Indiana. And like, for me, in many ways, the Detroit Rock City and God of Thunder and Flaming Youth, kind of set a tone for what I liked from the band. And then I loved Creatures. I loved Lick It Up. I I love. They were one of those bands where, and I'm sure some people have had this experience with a band that they love, where almost every record there was a song that had to do with what I was dealing with at the time.
Yeah,
like something just kind of like that's weird. It's not just they're telling me like stand up for yourself and it's very positive, but something's like specifically about that song that it caught on, even to the point of like I Want You on Hotter Than Hell, which I loved. I got that it was a punchline. Paul was doing a joke about 70s songs. That in the morning I raise my... He was making a joke about what was really going on in the 70s. And he was like, let me punch you in the dick with this, huge song, like that da-na-na-na-na-na. When it kicks in, it was meant to be, it's a joke. It's just like in Journey's, I think it's not Who's Crying Now, but... fuck, what's the name of which song is it? But it's the now it's your turn, girl, to cry. Na 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 na.
Oh yeah, that's
exactly.
Lights, right?
Yeah. When the lights go down in the city. Yeah, right. So here's the whole point is literally now it's your turn, girl, to cry. It's the thumb to the nose, wiggle your fingers, na 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 na. So the nanas are positioned to be like, now it's your turn, girl. Fuck
it all
you.
makes sense now.
That's a joke. And it's a really funny fucking joke if you pay attention to it. Same thing with I Want You. When I heard that, I knew exactly what he was doing. And understand, this is from somebody who, John Denver was a family friend.
Oh, wow.
My dad is a bluegrass musician.
Okay.
Does fret work for a lot of bluegrass musicians. He himself is an architect, but he also does fret work. So he does like frets for he does Bela Fleck's banjo, and he does Sam Bush's mandolin, and he at one point was fixing guitars for Flat and Scruggs and shit like that, like crazy. Like J.D. Crow's band all went to him. J.D. Crow in the New South, which is like so. I grew up around all these fucking guys, and John Denver gave me. I remember very distinctly when I think I was 6, gave me a Coke backstage or something. Like, here you go, have a. It was like this mean joke.
I was gonna say,
it's so weird.
That's wild.
Yeah, and obviously something I'm very concerned, aware of in the fact that I'm getting my pilot's license. So John's been weighing very heavily on my mind while I take flying lessons.
Right. It's like going skiing and having Sonny Bono.
That's right.
Popping
all
your
over the
head.
place, right?
Which that almost happened to Paul. Paul Stanley.
He got his bell rung. Yeah. But he's all right. And he's going to be doing the Soul Station shows. He had to cancel a bunch of them. They're going to bring him back. But anyways, so I get it. I have a lot of respect for people who hang in there. It's almost the quintessential aspect. I don't even have to like what you do.
Right.
But if you do what you do long enough and you don't give up on yourself and your fans, I have this kind of pocket of respect for people like that. If you haven't totally redressed everything you do and, if you, like just totally sold out in some bizarre fashion, become like an evangelical Christian just to fill megachurch.
Right.
That's a bit weird. That's off kilter. But if you're still doing what you do and you're doing it as well as you can for the fans that love you, knock yourself out. I don't have to like it. It's just part of the package. It's just like
What's your since we're talking Kiss? What's your take on Eric and Tommy in that makeup?
I have no problem with it. None whatsoever. It's Gene and Paul were designing and refining this imagery the entire time. Ace arguably is the one who took Paul's design and turned it into the Hitler S's. So
right.
There's this crisscross out of those guys. Once they allowed themselves to be bought out of the band by either fucking up or not doing their business right, that's the price of that. That's it. End of story. It's a big show. And you absolutely, like Ace could have, or Peter, could have at some point put their foot down and gone, no, nobody wears my makeup but me ever again, blah, 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 blah. And they said, yeah, would you like to do the reunion tour? It pays well. As soon as you do that, then you're like, okay, then all bets are off. And you can't hate those guys for doing the job.
Right. Oh, no, see, this is my thing with it. It's like, as much as I hate seeing them in that makeup, I understand it. I get it. I get why Gene and Paul do it because... That's the show. That's the money.
That's right.
But
it's also the thematic experience for the fans.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
To lose for the fans to, like, and here's the thing. I loved Eric Carr as the Fox.
I did too.
I thought the fucking Fox makeup was great, and I thought that should have stuck around. Vinny's Onk, we can talk about for a month, whatever. But the Fox makeup, I was 100% down with that.
Yeah.
And I thought to some degree, you could have almost transferred Eric to Eric, because I think Eric Carr would have signed off on Eric Singer being in there.
Right.
Obviously, he played on God Gave Rock and Roll
Yep,
to You.
yep.
And then Eric Carr was in the video as he was dying, bless his heart. And Eric Carr is my favorite Kiss drummer. I mean, period.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like...
he was a monster.
Yeah, and just brought the sound where it needed to be, solidified it,
Right.
anchored the playing. You know, you can look at the video of like Shandy, where where Peter's barely hitting the drums. In the,
Yeah.
And largely it's because we're filming. You don't really have to hit. Somebody
Right.
said that to him, and he took it completely to heart. But that's only because he didn't really hit them to begin with. You know what I mean? Super light hitter and whatever.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
a style thing. Knock yourself out.
Yeah.
But Eric, I love it loud. I mean, there
Yeah.
you go. That what he brought was terrific. I loved his energy. I thought it was heartbreaking when he got ill and died. To me, he defined an era of Kiss that I particularly love.
Me too.
So
Me too, man.
Yeah. So I almost feel like they could have done another makeup choice for Tommy and for Eric Singer, just because to invigorate the idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's a bit, that's shooting in the dark for a little while.
It is. It really is.
And it's playing with fire. And if you go, okay, we can redesign this thing right now, or we can burn it the fuck down until we just can't do it anymore, which I think is where Paul almost is with it, where he's just singing himself into a hole. The guy needs a break.
Oh
To
my
help
God.
his voice heal. And
What?
here's the thing: he has good days. He has
Yeah.
good runs where his voice is totally fine, and then others where he's just overworked it.
Yeah.
But he's carrying the entire fucking weight of
Mm-hmm.
any melody in this right now, because Gene's kind of gotten into the croak zone of how he delivers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a shame, because some of my favorite Gene shit is his solo record.
Oh,
where
it's
he's-
fucking amazing. It's
where
great.
You're seeing the high end of his range.
Yeah.
It's impressive. And if he just didn't have fucking acid reflux from stuffing himself with cookies on tour, he'd be able to maintain his voice a little bit, I think. I mean, that everybody runs into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
When you're on
yeah,
the road and you're just doing your thing. And you don't recognize that, wow, I don't really have it tonight. You don't have it tonight because you need to exercise and you need to eat better, and you can't eat a bunch of shit the night before because it'll grind you out. You'll go to sleep and you'll wake up with acid burning your vocal cords, and then each show gets successively squeakier or crunchier, And I've been through it. A lot of singers go through it. And Paul's obviously more protective,
Right.
than Gene is. And I wouldn't give a shit if I didn't know that Gene had a great voice when
Yeah.
it's there.
Right. He does.
He
does.
That record is the unsung record of the solo records. Gene's is.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I fucking love it. I mean, Paul's
Paul's is the Kiss record.
Paul's
That's the general idea.
Paul's
Yeah.
to me, Paul's solo record sounds like the predecessor to 80s Kiss.
Sure. Well, there's actually a turnaround on All Night. Where the chorus itself, the chords that are being played, are straight off of Paul's solo record.
Oh, fuck.
Off of damn, I'm blitzing on it right over. Tonight You Belong to Me. He does the same chord and the same plucking. It's for the like the middle, like this pre-chorus section is lifted right out.
Oh,
it's a
fuck
riff he
me.
likes. Now, Paul has it's one of my favorite rhythm players because he's got style and he creates his own stuff, and he
Yep.
mixed his rock roots with the way his own hand works,
Yeah.
which is what rhythm guitar playing is all about. And you can hear it as a recurring theme throughout all his playing. And you can say that some rock guys all sound alike or whatever, but it is where I find that irritating with blues players, because I think it's one thing to build on what someone else did. It's another thing to just do it again and again and again and again
Right.
and again. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, the thing that I loved
Yeah.
about the early records, especially the first three, is, I mean, you can hear it distinctly on a live one when you actually listen to it, is the difference of what Ace and Paul are playing, but
yeah.
how well it just fits.
Yes, right, yeah. And style-wise, them splitting the parts, and having them be so complementary,
right?
Which is the greatest shame of Ace's kind of dwindling influence in the band towards the end when he wasn't there. Now, I've seen Ace twice in the last couple of years. He sounds fucking awesome.
Fucking killer.
His voice is better than ever.
His playing
is great.
Yeah.
It's such a good... And I saw him walking with a fucking cane at the Tony Danza show like in 2004 or some
Holy shit.
Like, I don't know why. I mean, he maybe just had his ankle busted or some shit like that.
Right.
And he was just fixing it. I wasn't aware of where he even was for that period. But he was in the building where I was guesting on Tony's show back in the day, and here comes Ace, and I'm like, fuck, here comes Ace. Shit, I'm going to stand over here and say hi. And he looked like hell. And now he looks way better, and his band sounds fucking terrific.
His band is killer.
I think that was almost 100% the inspiration for Paul doing that One Last Kiss tour. I think he looked at how Ace finally got his real show together and sounded terrific, and he's like, oh, why don't I just do this too? Gene's fucking doing, a couple of shows with Gene and his band.
Yeah, good friends of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're out of the Rock and Roll Residency. They're out of Nashville. They play on all the rock cruises that I work on. So his... I just saw like an ad for him, like Gene and his band, which is such a fucking... Of course, it's a total Gene thing.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't even call it Gene and the Gene Simmons Band if we could get away with it, which I think would be awesome,
Right.
Or Gene Simmons and the Assholes, just call it, just make them do that song. But Ace fucking is killing it right now. And I love that part of it, And Paul's solo show, I saw that tour as well. Killed it. Awesome. His Soul Station stuff is terrific. The only problem that he has currently, I think, vocally, is just the overwork of all the shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And you go, all right, is this a guy going, look, I probably got 5 more years of doing this. Who gives a shit if I can't talk for the rest of my life, if I've given shows to all these people who want to come see me, and my kids are set up for fucking ever. There's an element where you go, I don't care what damage it does to me vocally. I don't care what damage it does to me physically. I'm going to burn this down. As long as they're paying, I'm going to jam as many shows in as I possibly can. Now, I think at a certain point you'd have enough money where you could go, I don't have to do that. I can take 3 months off and whatever. I liked the last 3 records. I liked Monster a hell of a lot. I liked Sonic Boom when it came out. I appreciated that's where Paul was, let's shape this up into the band that we are. I thought it was better than Psycho Circus. I thought, and in retrospect, I was way too hard on Psycho Circus when it came out, and now when I listen to it, I'm like way more okay with it. When it first came out, I was so judgmental because it was coming, and I was like, I learned a valuable lesson. I mean, I think it's always a mistake to hem your favorite artist in. It's a dick move, and we all do it. We all go, the new record comes out, and you're all like harumph,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
But I like Modern Day Delilah. I think is one of the best songs I've written in 25
It's a great
years.
song. It's a fucking great
live,
song.
It's great. Like, my son is 5 and already a Kiss fan. You're welcome. And dressed as Ace for Halloween last year.
Nice.
And just beautiful. And they did that Scooby-Doo cartoon movie with the guys.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's great. And my friend Polly Perret, who's on NCIS, she's the voice of the villain in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they play Modern Day Delilah at the end of it. There's 4 songs in the actual show where they kind of have them. They play this like during this battle scene that's straight out of the 70s comic in a lot of ways. They play I Was Made for Loving You, which it just throws me back to when I was 10.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
amazing. But and don't get me started on, by the way, the Australian tour version of Detroit Rock City, which I think is the way to sing it.
Oh, yeah, the one that was on Kiss Exposed?
Yeah, the high version.
That's how, every time that I do it, that's how I try to do it.
I love that version.
Oh, it's so fucking killer.
Yeah, and it's so much more emotional.
Yeah.
And that was because, one of the reasons, besides the fact that it sounds good, is that he was getting his voice together. And he wasn't this, like, croaky New York rock singer anymore.
Yeah.
He actually had chops. And he's like, you know what? I need to start working on so I can keep doing this or whatever. And while they were working on Destroyer and all that kind of stuff, I think they finally started doing a little bit of training, a little bit of warming up, a little bit of getting it together, and realizing he had some, he had Forever in him, and
one of my favorite songs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Fuck.
And the bell tone quality of his voice and the power of it, I think, when you look at him doing that, part of it is you have to sometimes protect yourself from your old songs when you couldn't sing as well. Like my band, like the new songs we're working on are way higher vocally, more difficult technically. But I have to shape my old songs and make them a little more vocally ambitious than they were. Because if I sing them in that channel, it's almost like I've got my throat's on an old 3-channel UHF style television set, and then I'm going cable.
Right.
In the middle of the set, it's your voice. It's better to have it operating on its high point the entire time than dip back down. Because when he has to go back down to singing the old stuff, that's kind of what fucks him up a little bit.
That makes sense.
Especially when they try to cut the difference by down tuning half a step for the.
Oh shit, they're down to C now. I think.
Well,
or D or whatever.
That's you look at
everybody.
Zach Wilde. He's like in D flat.
Yeah.
He's like in A flat or some shit. It's just like his strings like rubber bands that
woo woo.
Like,
that's funny.
Like
I tweeted to Gene once and I asked him, like, "What are you guys tuned to now?" And he in total Gene fashion replied in all capital letters, "It doesn't matter."
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, come on. Just you can't answer a simple fucking question.
No, don't ask him. That's not his problem. That's your problem. Don't tweet Gene Simmons and ask him what he fucking tunes to. For God's sake, man. Are you out of your goddamn mind?
Think I ain't?
Huh?
So you think I ain't?
But point being is that, like, you down tune a half step to make the higher stuff more palatable and easy to tour on, but it drops the other shit down another notch and makes it in a lower part of your vocal cords, which will dry you out and fuck you up. And it's a mistake. It's almost, like, and I don't know if they've tried to find a measure of it, because I know with my band, we're doing a song off my first record, which was the most, She Waits. We're going to be doing that live now. And the
band's called 01 if you're listening.
And She Waits, you can listen to it online.
If you don't know.
So, And I'm proud of that song. I wrote it with a friend of mine, Tommy Tabe, and it's a great song. I'm proud of it, and it deserves to be sung right. Okay. Well, I can't downtune that a half step because it sounds less punchy to me. But also, it's fucking harder. It's harder to lower it. It's better to stay up in the higher range and keep it pure, and tight, rather than kind of relax it a little bit and really fuck yourself up.
You know, dude, it's
like AC/DC. Oh. You can't do AC/DC tuned down a half step. It's a mistake. Don't do Cinderella that way either.
Right.
Because it's the wrong. Like, if you go from "shake me" to "shake me," you're fucked. You'll ruin your throat, right? It's the same kind of deal.
It's funny, I ran into that because in my Ace tribute to Ace Frehley, find us on Facebook, by the way. Hey, Carly.
Hey, Carly.
We do Into the Night.
Oh yeah,
and that record is in standard.
Yeah,
it's in standard, and so we just tried doing it. The first couple times we tried doing it live, it was we were just half step down, and I figured it out, and I'm like, why can't I fucking get there?
Yeah,
because I'm used to singing it along with the record.
Right. It's not there. Right.
And this last time that we did it back home over Patty's Day, we did it half step up.
Yeah.
So it was like in the actual tuning, and it's like, oh fuck, it's almost there.
Well, yeah.
I almost got it.
That's right. Well, that's and I like the Todd Howarth stuff that he did with them. I like, like Breakout. I love Breakout.
Fuck yeah.
And a little opening cartoon, piece of stuff that they play with it. So, but yeah, if you try to do those a little lower to save yourself when you're exhausted, it gets worse each time. You start the bar starts to fall, and to the point, it's like getting glasses when you really just have a migraine. Like you have a migraine, your eyes are blurry, and you go, Jesus, my eyes are blurry. Like, no, you have a low-grade migraine, and you're not even paying attention to the fact that you have a headache because you've had a headache all the time, and you don't recognize that's what's going on. So you go get glasses, and it's not your fucking eyes, and then your eyes get weaker because you got glasses when you didn't need them, right? And then it gets, and then the prescription gets higher and higher.
Right.
The same thing can happen vocally, where you go, okay, I need to modify my technique so I'm not using as much air to hit the notes that I need, so I can maintain this, because being a professional isn't being able to sing a great song. Being a professional is being able to sing a great song twice.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
It's a great point.
Do it again.
Yep.
That's all the difference between a professional and amateur is a professional can do it again. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do it again, you're an amateur. And that's and everybody has their amateur moments. It's just you gotta protect yourself. Like being a stand-up. Anybody can be funny. I can be funny 20 times. I can make the same joke funny for a year.
Right.
Most people can't do that because they haven't developed the skill to do it. It's not like they couldn't, it's just they don't. And the same thing with singing is like, if you can't do it tomorrow night, you can't do it. And so you got to find a way to do it tonight in a way that you can do it tomorrow. That's always it.
That's a good point. Before I get to this question from Scott, and he's a Canadian.
Bless the Canadians, we love them.
Funny story about the A show we just did back home. So we do two sides of the coin, and Ace's guitar is tuned to open G.
Huh.
So my guitar player's like, fuck, god damn it.
Right.
Now I got to bring another guitar. What did he bring for his second guitar? The Vinnie Vincent Flying V. Sweet irony.
Yeah,
it
right.
was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I have that. I just got one of those Robo Tuners. Like that's automatic or whatever, and you go by the app or whatever, and you can have that plugged into your rig, and you literally just set it on the thing, and it can do the tuning for your guitar, automatically. You just put it on each peg.
I don't know if I could do that,
dude. It's great. It's great. It'll do, and you can go, okay, this is my regular tuning. Obviously, it's bad to fuck with your guitar,
right?
With big tunings during the show,
right?
But as far as like, oh shit, my G is out of tune, hitting it and not looking and just going dink while you're doing other stuff, it will do it for you. That's kind of gorgeous.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. That and for, but dude, I wish Unmasked could have the true remastering that it deserves.
My god,
almost the reamping.
Yeah, because if it was, because it's a pop record.
Yeah,
but if it was balls out,
is that you?
Same songs.
Is fucking what makes the world go round. Even Torpedo Girl is fun. Like it's just it's a fun rock song. It could be fun, louder and harder. There would be nothing wrong with that. Like. She's So European, I loved. Like that live video of them doing it on Top of the Pops or whatever that was in England is terrific. Where they did, I think they did, was it Two Sides of the Coin on that same show?
I don't know.
Yeah, and the smoke machine is fucked up. Or they did it on purpose, but Gene and Paul are almost completely invisible during the entire song. Like there's so much smoke on the left side of the stage, and there's so little room that they're just standing over on the side, completely obscured, and all you see really is Ace and Peter. And Peter's like doing his his puckered lip, pretending to play. Because you know what I mean. Anybody else would go, no, I need a loud monitor, and I'll just feed whatever the fuck you want to the people out that are seeing it. But this is all bullshit anyway, so I'm gonna hit. I'm gonna hit what's going on. Just give me a monitor loud
to make it look real.
Yeah, right. Nope, not even touching them. It's hilarious.
So Scott wants to know thoughts on the classic redo that came out with Sonic Boom.
Well, okay. First of all, business decision. There's a lot of bands that are doing this now.
Yep.
For better or worse. Because the old contracts were such that the labels owned your masters in perpetuity for fucking ever. And so some bands, to salvage their own history, have to retract their own fucking songs just to get them out.
Had to do it. Yeah, I mean,
look at Europe put out an almost completely guitar heavy version of Final Countdown. and it's weird. It's
Right.
it's also a half step
Their
down.
last record is really fucking
Dude,
good.
Secret Society is great. Like I'm a big fan of what Europe's been doing, and the guitar players obviously went down a Zach road. So it was loving the heavy shit.
Yeah,
And Joey still has vocally that's really killer chops, but they did this half step down, like in this weird zone where they were like, oh, let's just put it out like that, and it's not good, but they still do it live in the regular tuning,
right?
Because they recognize that. But it was
right,
too late.
and that's what people want to hear,
right? So I don't blame Kiss for doing a re-recording of those things. And by the way, from Paul's point of view, they were doing that as an exercise to get back into the zone of the songs that they like. It's
Makes
by
sense.
the way the exact same thing that Metallica was doing with Garage Days, but with other people's songs.
Gotcha.
Kiss was doing it like, look, let's get back into the studio. We're going to re-record our old shit just to get back into the writing and recording mode of what we were like when we were doing this. And it's a smart fucking move. Whether you released it or not was immaterial. The reason Paul was doing it was for that specific reason. Was literally so that he could get them back into the zone of him and Gene specifically, and mostly probably for himself. Like, I want to write songs like on the Hotter Than Hell record.
Right.
And I don't want to...
I fucking love Hotter Than Hell.
Oh, man.
That's my favorite Kiss
Dude.
record.
Yeah. I mean, I got... Like, Love Gun is bulletproof in many respects as a record. The Destroyer itself has just got a majesty to it. I'm an Elder fan, so I don't really care.
Oh, fucking I love the Elder.
Yeah, right. And Creatures Asylum, like Who Wants to Be Lonely is one of my favorite Kiss songs ever. I became a Jean Beauvoir fan because of that. He co-wrote that with Jean Beauvoir, who was in the Plasmatics. He was the bass player in that.
Oh, wow.
Looked like Doug, had a big giant blonde mohawk, black dude. You ever hear Jean Beauvoir's solo record,
No.
Drums Along the Mohawk?
I have not.
Fucking killer record. It's more poppy.
I'll look it up.
It's more poppy than that, but the songwriting on it is, and it's super 80s. But I love it. You know, he's got a song in there called "Sorry I Missed Your Wedding Day," which sounds like a slightly more macho Prince song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is like terrific. And "Feel the Heat," which is on the Cobra soundtrack. If you're familiar with
Stallone
that
movie?
Yeah. He had. That's how I was like. I saw that song. I was like, I love that song. Who's that guy? Who's the blonde mohawk dude? Because they played the video like twice on MTV. And there was like Jean Beauvoir, and I was like, wait, that's the guy who co-wrote. Hold on. And so I went and bought the record. Drums Along the Mohawk is one of my favorite kind of invisible records along that way. He's like a super talented guy. But he wrote Who Wants to Be Lonely with Paul. Dude, like King of the Mountain.
Oh, fuck
like,
yeah. Dude, the first track,
drums,
the first track on all of those 80s records.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. King of the Mountain. What was the one on...
I've Had Enough, Into the Fire, which
yep,
is one of my favorite songs ever.
on Animalize, yeah.
God, like, and here's the thing, even Crazy Nights. Reason to Live is one of my favorite Kiss songs of all times, ballad-wise especially.
Yeah.
And probably my favorite, and Forever's right up there with it too, favorite Bruce Kulick solo. Bruce Kulick's solo on Reason to Live is perfect for the song.
Yep.
Like, totally delivers. Just knocks it out of the fucking park. And you can tell maybe on some of the other songs it's halfway between Bruce wanting to do what he wants to do and Gene and Paul dictating what's going to go into the song.
Right.
And in the mix, there's some weirdness, and it's not quite foundational, especially on the first record he was there with. But on that particular song, it just felt like it was the right mix. Whether it was like they were producing him more or whether he was delivering more, it didn't matter. It was a good mix of his skill and what was right for the record. And so I've always loved that solo from him.
I always loved the Unholy solo.
Oh yeah,
fuck
yeah, and Unholy itself is just in a different category guitar wise. I love it. Yeah.
I mean, it's like one of the heaviest things they ever fucking did.
Oh yeah,
it's fucking beautiful. We could sit and talk Kiss for like 3 more hours.
Yeah,
we're gonna take a minute-long break, and we'll be right back with Hal Sparks and actually talk about your career a little bit.
Sure,
why not? All right, it's another fucking podcast. RockstarLeatherworks.com is your home for badass rock and roll gear. Featuring 100% handmade leather bands, watches, cuffs, bracelets, and more, Rockstar Leatherworks has something for everybody. Whether you are going to the show or you are in it, You can find something to fit your needs. Choose from a variety of designs or create your own masterpiece. Their bands and watches are second to none. They also ship internationally. Who needs a stage to be a rock star? Check out rockstarleatherworks.com.
Retro Arcade brings Minnesota and surrounding areas arcade games from the days gone by. All of those great games from pizza joints and arcades are available in cocktail units and custom machines. Dozens of favorites from your youth in one machine to complete your game room or man cave. Retro Arcade also sells and services your favorite pinball machines. Find them at facebook.com/80arcade. That's facebook.com/80arcade. Retro Arcade. Your youth is just one click away.
If you need to promote your band or business, or just want to stylize, personalize, or customize your ride, check out vid-decals.com. Want to create and customize your own stickers representing your band, or make your own bumper sticker? Vid Decals can do it. All stickers are printed on quality vinyl and can be placed on any flat surface. Stickers are an affordable way to promote your band or business. Go to vid-decals.com to get started. That's vid-decals.com. vid-decals.com.
All right, and we are back with Hal Sparks, comedian, musician, actor.
Right. Writer, director.
Director.
That's
We
right.
need to talk about that stuff, by the way. Off the air, because I have stuff.
Gotcha.
Make sure you check out A&P Productions' laser engraving division. I have these nice little... He's got these flasks made for me, but he's also got Zippos. We're doing Zippos. We're doing those little click flashlights with the logo on it, and bottle openers. We're going to put them all together and call it the Roadie Pack.
That's a great idea. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, very cool. And like all you folks back home, back in the Minneapolis, out in the sticks out there,
make sure you get what you need.
Yeah.
Jesse the Body Ventura says, absolutely. I know a guy who knows the truth about laser engraving.
and he can.
It's a plot.
He can laser engrave your guns if you want.
That's right.
He just did a gun show this weekend, and then he got some hate mail for it. Because people are
assholes?
Because people are assholes, yeah. Exactly. So check them out. And also...
I think it's important to go everywhere and anywhere to get my message across, and if you don't believe that, you're an asshole.
All right, and then...
Got time to bleed.
For the past year, I've been getting this Jack Daniels bottle signed, which Hal was nice enough to sign. The last one...
In a fit of irony, since I don't drink and never have.
Right, exactly. I think this one actually... Does this one have... No, the last one had a couple sober guys on it, too. But it's pretty filled up over the last year.
Yeah, it is.
Hal signed it, and Courtney Cox from the Iron Maidens, Rafael Moriera from Paul Stanley's band.
Yeah, that's right.
Who else is on here?
We love Courtney. She's a shredder, man. She's so skilled.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah.
She's amazing. Brent Muscat. These are all people that have been on the show and been in studio here. Oh, God. Ace Von Johnson signed it again. Barry Pointer. Johnny Martin from L.A. Guns. I think tranny porn star Morgan Bailey signed it when she was in studio.
All right.
I should have had Aiden sign it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Aiden Ashley. She's rather attractive herself.
All right. We'll get that done retroactively.
Right. So,
Make that
anyways, this time what we are doing with the money that is, we're going to auction this off on eBay. I'm going to put it up tonight. Last time, the money went to the SoCal Bulldog Rescue. And this time... being the musician that I am, and a good friend of mine from this band called Itis, he's run into some serious medical problems, and they're raising money. It's just a little bit. There's a GoFundMe page right now. So basically, all the money that we make off of this is going to go towards this. I'll just read you what's on the GoFundMe page. On November 23rd, 2016, Itis singer Mark Rodeo went to emergency room due to an acute case of diverticulitis. Thank you. Which perforated his colon in 3 different places. Shortly after, his intestines ruptured and his colon burst. Went into septic shock, was rushed to emergency surgery, came very close to dying. And so basically they had to do a secondary surgery, was performed in 2017 to piece everything back together. And during the 5-month deal, he lost 35 pounds, but unable to work. So, of course, he blew out his knee a year before that. And meniscus hanging by a thread, lost 50% of the cartilage, blah, 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 a lot of that horrible stuff. So they are writing, or they're raising money to help him with his medical bills, and that's what this money's going to go for. So
this dude needs to hydrate. This dude seriously needs to hydrate. That is, all those things are, I mean, they're varying degrees for a lot of them. One of the biggest problems that dude clearly has, if he's having that much problem with his tendons and that much problems with the colon, is he's dehydrated. Ladies and gentlemen who are listening, drink more water.
Yeah, I should probably get on that.
Jesus.
So, yeah, that's what we're going to send the money out to after this is done.
Bless him and hope that it works.
Amazing singer. So, now, okay, you were on a show called Queer as Folk for 6 years.
Yeah.
Played a gay guy.
That's true.
You're straight.
That's right.
How was that?
Artistically, it was one of the most valuable moments in my entire, experiences in my entire life. It was a joy to work with our execs, our writers. We had a great cast and an important job to do. I loved it. It was, but it was the experience of doing that. Curiously enough, all the things that you think, or people kind of classically will think are the things that bother you about it, like playing gay or the sex scenes or all that kind of stuff, isn't the worst of a show like that. The hardest part of a show like that is, and this is true of any drama series that's based, especially ones that are relationship based, is that you're basically paid to be miserable. That even the happy moments are fleeting, and that the main thrust of the storyline is that someone's got to be sick, dying, sad, betrayed, brokenhearted, whatever, with great regularity. And in a movie, which is going to be over in 3 months of shooting, or in a play where you're going to do the exact same words every night for a run, no matter how long it goes, it's still the same moments again and again. It's not a variance of moments. It's easier to get through. On a series like that, it'll fuck you up. It'll make you ill if you're not careful. And I don't think a lot of people recognize the amount of emotional and physical maintenance you have to do when you're sad for a living.
Did you have to? Did you did you do counseling? Did you? To help keep you?
I did. Well, the second.
Normal?
It was interesting because my character was very much sort of a follower in his life in the beginning of the series. He eventually grew into himself, and that's the great thing about doing a show like that, is that it was so quality that eventually the character kind of grows up over time. But it's a legit arc of time. It's not like season 2 he just has a moment of epiphany and then he's changed the rest of his life. He's still got one hand on the side of the pool for the rest of his life a little bit, but he's growing as a man. But the second year, after we finished the season, I started having panic attacks because I was so put upon in the circumstance. It was there were days when I would literally I'd have 19 crying spells and 10 angry scenes in one day. So you're all adrenaline and sorrow for 3 days in a row. And that would happen every other episode at least. And, so it's hard on your system. It just is. So what I started doing, and I very distinctly remember, I had one, a panic attack, and I was it was brutal. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest from the inside out. It was crazy. I recognized that that's what it was. And then I started reading up on it immediately, because that's what I do whenever I have an issue with anything, is that I study. And everybody was saying, well, once you have panic attacks, you're always going to have panic attacks. That's just life. And I was like, maybe somebody else, but not me. Fuck that. And so I was like, okay, what's the problem here? What can I solve? And so I started going to acupuncture to sort of almost rewire my nervous system. I would do yoga whenever I felt it kind of coming on. And I kicked its ass in 4 months. And I haven't had one since, and I'm not going to. And I learned a lot about, breathing deep and owning, the amount of work that you're doing. And again, it's kind of where I get to that point about Paul protecting his voice and, being a professional means doing it again, is that maintenance on your instrument becomes more crucial the more you're aware of it, And then you recognize that a lot of the people who are in Hollywood who we see as fucked up, you don't recognize that this person, honestly, everybody on The Walking Dead is going to need a shrink going forward. I mean, they just are. They're not going to realize it, but the next time they try to make friends on a set, because people will get killed off on that show and all that kind of shit.
Yeah,
Once
sense.
that happens, you're going to be real gun shy about making friends with anybody on a show. Especially if you end up on a dramatic
looked
show.
at it that way.
You're
That's...
never going to do it. And so after a while you go, okay, I get it. This is the work of this work. The work of this work isn't necessarily doing it. Obviously, it takes some skill, and you do have, you have to have a skill you can call on when you need it. You have to be able to cry on cue.
Right.
Revert the emotion, which is the hardest thing, which is, it's not hard to cry on cue. It's hard to stop crying and go back to the beginning of the scene where you were happy.
What's the trick? What's the secret?
There isn't one. You have to own the true emotion, and then you have to break out however it takes you. Like, some people just go off in a corner and kind of meditate and get reset back to whatever it is. But like Michael on Queer as Folk, that guy never saw anything bad coming. He was so innocent and so open-hearted that he just walked into a rake emotionally all the time. So at the beginning of a scene, he was pretty happy all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then something really fucked up would happen, and it would turn the corner. I even had one scene where literally in the script, it just said, Michael breaks down quickly. That was it. Just one line. And from that point on, I'm crying in the scene. Like, it turns on this, because he's hiding the fact that his husband, his boyfriend, is got pancreatitis from his AIDS medication, and he's in the hospital, and he might die. And he's holding it together, and he's okay until he isn't. And when he isn't, it all goes to shit. And so I had to do that scene 23 times.
Jesus.
So I had to go back from sobbing to normal, and then do it again. And again, and again, and again, and again, angle after angle, and and for the performance of the other actor, and for my own performance, and all that kind of stuff. And I literally, at one point, they had we shot the scene where the Ben character, Michael's would be soon-to-be husband, was in the hospital. We'd shot that earlier in the day, and then he'd wrapped for the day, but they were going to shoot the part, and then the next day where we were getting him out of the hospital, and they'd made the setup for the next day. So the bed was perfect, the pillow was perfect, the room looked normal, and his clothes were just gonna be draped there the next day. And so what I did was I emotionally blackmailed myself. I walked in, and every time before the scene, because I walk out of the room to start this scene, I come out of the hospital room and have this scene in the hallway. I would go in and put my hand on the pillow and imagine that my best friend had died, and that when and they'd been taken to ICU, they'd gone on a crash cart, they took him down to ICU from this hospital room, and that they died down there. I went back up to get their stuff, and they'd already changed the sheets. And that moment of my friend didn't matter to these people did me in every fucking time.
Oh, wow.
And after a while, I had to change who it was, because you're in a defense mechanism, your brain and your soul will only let you go there so many times before it will just go, fuck that, I don't even miss this asshole anymore. It's just like, real emotions only last 17 seconds, and then you make a decision. You re-up the emotion, start again, or you get out of it. Every real emotion you've ever had is 17 seconds long.
Wow.
And then the minute, if you're mad, you'll have another thought that continues the anger, but you won't drop it, whatever. Anyway, so I would go in there before the scene, put my hand on the pillow, think about this, and then try to hold it together because the family was outside, and then I would just walk out and start the scene, and then it was a bitch just to not fall apart.
Wow.
And so you do that, most people in that experience in your real life, you would have that moment once in your life.
Right.
I was doing it 20 times a day. For, 8-day episodes, I would do that 4 days a week. Something along those lines. Somebody breaking your heart. Somebody scaring the shit out of you. You almost lose your job. Your boyfriend's, or your mom almost dies. Like, there's tons of this shit. And when you're on a dramatic series, that's all it is. So you really have to do maintenance on yourself. And so what I would do is, I would drop out a character the second I was done. I had to not be that guy anymore and let him exist in his own world and just kind of joke around with the crew and that kind of stuff and be myself, and then zip back into it at the beginning of it, which irritates some of the other actors sometimes when they're method or they have to stay in position, and I just can't do that. Otherwise, I can't deliver. This is my technique, and I don't begrudge them their technique. This is mine, right?
Yeah.
But it's just something you have to be aware of when you're doing something like that, in the same way that after a while, guitar players have to warm up before a show. They may not think so, but it's better if they do.
True.
Because you may not think you need it right now, but in 5 years, the damage you've done will make it harder for you to do the warm-up before you do a show. And then you'll really need it. And it wasn't because, lately I'm getting old and my hands are getting tired. It's not that. It's the damage you did 5 years ago when you weren't warming up. And so the value of that extra step, that maintenance, when you don't think you need it, is what gives you that gift of being able to do it much longer.
Yeah, the cutting it off and getting out of character, it reminds me, you a Scrubs fan?
Sure, yeah.
That there was that one episode where they were trying to figure out why Bob, like every time he stepped out of the hospital, he was whistling and smiling, and you watched him, he'd just be mad, all of a sudden, boom, he stepped out of the hospital, and and just walk away. And that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, my mom's a nurse, and so you can't carry that shit home. She worked in a mental hospital for 2 years, and then went back to working for a urologist because that was easier, doing vasectomies, and but you have to, whatever your art is, whatever your thing is,
Yeah,
it's if it's work, if you get paid for it, if other people don't get paid for it because you're getting paid for it, that means it requires a point of skill.
Right.
That either people don't hang on to for very long. And my goal in life has always been to be Hume Cronin or, like the old fuck in the movie. Like, I want to be George Burns.
Right.
So I don't care how long shit takes. So I'm a lot more patient, and I've got to keep working this entire time. I have to keep this whole flow going so that, like, oh yeah, fucking Hal Sparks has been around forever. Like, because I came from nothing. I didn't have any relatives in the business. I didn't have any. I never got a leg up. I didn't know anybody. I came out here, packed all my shit in my car after I graduated high school and drove to L.A. End of conversation.
Yeah.
There was none. And my dad, I call the 90s the Sisyphus years because my dad would call me and tell me to come home every 2 weeks.
I still get that.
Yeah. Nope. Sorry. This is how it goes. And it takes how long it takes. The funny thing is, nobody ever does that to lawyers. Lawyers
right.
spend like somewhere between 7 and 15 years in school, and then maybe another decade not making any money, being legal, in some legal firm doing shit work.
Yep.
Then they eventually get to the point where they're doing trial work or something like that, and they're just paying off their student loans for another 5 years. They don't get to be partner till they're in their 60s, but I'm the dickhead who's still ice skating uphill, right? And so, to me, my motto's always been care enough not to give a fuck, because you can't let what other people think of what you're doing impact what you're doing.
Yeah,
you have to care. You have to care about it more than they could ever care about it. And if you do, it doesn't bother you when people go, oh, God, that's hard. It's like, you don't, like stand-up. I don't even think of stand-up as hard. I never have. Been doing it since I was 15, but I don't think of it
really?
I don't think of it as difficult. I just think of it as the job. It's what it requires. Right. The hard shows are what are teaching me how to be better in front of the good shows. Like, it's never the audience's fault. It's always on me to get better. And so, like, I don't get upset by it. I don't, like, I see guys and they're like, fuck, man, that crowd was blah, or shit, that Friday night, there's late shows at work. And I'm like, yeah, they're supposed to be. It's like, yeah, you know what? You go to the gym to lift heavy shit. That shit doesn't need to be lifted. There's nothing about those weights that need to be moved up and down 10, 15 times. You do that so that if you're ever presented with a situation where you have to lift something heavy off someone, you can. Or you need to run, or you need to fight, or whatever. You have the skill to actually do it. It's what I call manufactured adversity. The gym is manufactured adversity. Warm-ups are manufactured adversity. I'm going to make the worst show of my life by doing trills and run through scales in a way that I wouldn't do without any art attached, which is really the irritating part of it. But you do that so that whenever life calls your bluff, you've got more in the tank, is all.
Well, you've had to use that. You saved somebody's life.
Well, multiple people.
Yeah. well, I saw the one on...
at LAX.
Yeah,
the
LAX.
CPR, when I did CPR there. Yeah. I've done CPR 3 times. I've saved six people from drowning in my life. I got the Order of Light, the little Arrow of Light in Boy Scouts when I was 13 because I drugged people out of the creek behind my house.
Holy shit!
5 times, and then this kid at the 2 kids actually at the pool in Frankfort, Kentucky. One of them is one of the times I did CPR on him. The other kid was just a floater, and so yes, that's just like owning what you are, owning what you can do. Because I refuse to believe that I was the only person that knew CPR in a room.
But you're the one that
500 people, who were waiting in line to get on an airplane. That's just absurd. But after 3 compressions on this dude, as I was working on him, I looked up and the room was empty. Everybody just left. They cleared the room and ran everybody through security and got him the fuck out of there. And so I'm alone with this woman that helped me in the middle of, like it was just a bizarre experience. But again, I've done it multiple times now. And I literally, so much so that when this happened at LAX, somebody yelled, "Oh my God, this man's having a heart attack. Does anybody know CPR?" And I waited what felt like a minute or 2, but it was probably about 8 seconds. And nobody moved. And I went, "Oh, I guess that's me." Okay. And I just walked over and started working on him. And he lived, and sometimes that's it. That's all it takes. And so the point is, I don't take CPR to do it on myself.
Right.
Right.
And I'm
not CPR certified. I guess you can do the Heimlich on yourself, but that's pretty much the extent of I'm fucked. I need to help. You know what I mean?
I got to run into this chair right now.
That's right. Yeah. Just heave yourself onto a bench or whatever. Yeah. So it was. I mean, that's just part of this side extraordinary experience that I've had a couple of times. That's just bizarre. And I don't even know how to wrap my head around it. It just occurs. And it's also nice to know that you have that in your pocket emotionally and psychologically. That, like, since it's happened, it's not like I'm on the lookout for, like, hey, who's the next person?
Right.
But there is a point where I don't worry about it the way I think, some people don't realize they worry in an emergency the way they do. I think, people outstress themselves. Watch people think about exercise. Ask them a question about exercise and watch the worry roll over their fucking face.
I look at this every single day. Hasn't gone in this.
Your yoga thing?
Like DDP yoga, yeah.
Sure.
Hasn't gone in there for a few weeks.
Hey, man.
Even though I know it has to.
Ain't nothing to it but to do it, baby.
I know.
They just start tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter that you didn't do it yesterday. People literally latch on to, I haven't done it before, so therefore I'm not doing it. Okay, so I do a lot of bits in my stand-up act about the simulation hypothesis, that we live in a computer simulation, that the universe is actually a computer simulation. I kind of run that as a joke premise. If you're not familiar, there's tons of stuff. Look up the holographic universe. Look at all the shit about Elon Musk and Nick Bostrom and all these people talking about how the fact that it's statistically more probable we live in a computerized matrix-like simulation than it is a real universe. And I love that as a concept. It's great, especially it's a great joke point, but also it's fascinating from a philosophical standpoint. But if you believe it or you go into it at all, you have to recognize that there is no way to prove scientifically that yesterday happened at all. That you didn't enter this right now, and that everything that you're experiencing is somebody else's shit that you've had injected into your head so you can pretend to be this person from this point forward. Or that you're experiencing a slice of this life today, and that tomorrow you're not even aware that you're going to be gone and somebody else. Like, there's no way to prove yesterday even existed. It could be an injection that you had.
I thought that's what Facebook memories were for.
Yeah, that's just bullshit. It's all programmed. I mean, of all things, you can't check a computer to prove that you're not in a simulation. That's the most absurd version. But the point is that yesterday has zero meaning as far as your future. None. Like, the only thing that ever matters is the skill you've acquired. The habitual muscle memory that you have. Everything else, it's a fucking blank slate the second you wake up.
That's
Everything.
True.
Driving and playing guitar or whatever, those kind of things, skills you developed, the only thing with any manageable meaning. Everything else you've got to do either from a daily maintenance standpoint or you start from scratch every fucking morning. And that's exercise, that's relationships, that's eating and drinking and consuming calories so that you can move around. All that shit has no bearing in the time-space continuum on yesterday at fucking all. It does not matter. You can arguably stored fat is maybe the closest thing, but even that's not, the act of burning it is today's work.
Let me tell you about stored fat. Look at my man boobs.
But yeah, so I that idea of that kind of daily self-maintenance and preparation for the extraordinary moments in life, that's why you play guitar. You know what I mean? That's why the day like that silly fantasy that everybody has. I'm going to go down there, and the bass player's going to be sick, and they're going to go, does anybody know the songs? And I'm going to raise my hand, and I'm the new bass player in the band. Like, whatever. That idea applies to almost every factor of my fucking life, as far as stuff that I want to do. Is that because you can be in the right place at the right time, but not be the right person. And more people experience that. I was in the right place at the right time. No. You were the wrong person. The right place, the right time happens all the fucking time. Are you ready for it? Do you have you prepped for the good stuff? Most people just worry, which is prepping for the bad stuff. They don't go, well, while I'm worrying, I might as well develop some skill or some, qualities about myself that if presented with the opportunities I want, I'll be able to jump at it.
This is when I should have that NBC The More You Know chime.
Sure. Yeah.
Rolling. This is good
know.
shit.
But yeah.
I'm like learning stuff.
All right.
Wow. That's like pretty
that's like
stuff.
Cool.
So you were doing stand up before you became an actor.
Almost at the same time, because I started in high school. I was in theater when I was 15. They had this thing in competition acting and drama called original comedy, which was like, at the time, it was like after dinner speaking. There was this competition between schools, and you gave this really punny, not funny speech, essentially like Toastmasters or some shit. And I wrote like a 7-minute, it had to be 7 minutes exactly. I wrote a 7-minute stand-up set because I wanted to be a stand-up for it. And I got a third place once in all these meets. I went to like 26 meets. I got a third place once. And then I won the funniest teenager in Chicago contest doing stand-up with that act. And then the next year at Forensics, everybody was doing straight stand-up. Everybody.
Wow.
Like the whole... it was over as a after dinner speaking kind of exercise because that didn't exist anymore, and so and then I was paid to do gigs from the time I started doing that, and then I
so you never had to go through the open mic gimmicks and
no, I did them all the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Of course. Yeah, I did them. I like Zanies, Catch a Rising Star, The Funny Firm, all these places in Chicago. My dad at one point, to get me to focus more on school, grounded me to keep me from being able to do stand-up. So when most kids were like sneaking out their bedroom window and shimmying down a tree, which I literally had a tree outside my window that I could shimmy down, and I did shimmy, yes.
Just like in the Poison song, yes.
Right, yes. And I'd ride my bike down to the Wilmette L station and take a train into Chicago, do 2 stand-up sets, and then take a train back. And I did places like, they had an improv there at the time. They had a place called the Clout Club, which was all political comedy. I was doing political jokes there before I was old enough to vote. And all the guys there, I just distinctly remember them all looking like the guy on the cover of the Warrant, dirty, rotten, filthy, skinny, rich.
Yep.
Cigar-chomping, big-jowled fat fucks going, what the fuck do you know? And then I would do a couple of jokes, Reagan jokes at the time, and they're like, kid's got a point, so.
Right?
Yeah, so I knew I was kind of onto something in that. And then and to me, like, when I was in Kentucky, there was no, like, the idea of being a stand-up was just stupid. Who the fuck makes a living telling jokes? Like, that's madness.
Yeah.
But in Chicago, there's no magic to it at all. It is just, it's like blue collar. Like, okay, you start in the mailroom, work your way up to CEO. You start open mics. You host. You're the opening act. You feature. You headline. You tour. That's the ladder. It's got rungs in it. As long as you hit the rungs on your way up, it should be fairly clear. As long as you get better and you can do the goddamn job, off you go, right? And there were plenty of idiots doing stand-up full hours touring through Chicago that I would watch their whole set and go, this guy fucking sucks, but he's making a living. So,
right.
you know, and that's always been, I love that. I go see shitty bands when I want to write a song. I go see shitty stand-ups when I want to get invigorated and write good comedy.
So that's why you came to see my Ace Frehley tribute.
Right.
You want to see a shitty band?
Yeah, that's right. No, but in reality, like it inspires me because I always feel like the audience deserves better, and that's probably part of the KISS legacy in my life. But in doing, you know, like watching these, because I've always believed whatever you want to do, whatever dream you have, whatever thing you want to do, whether it's fucking play the piano and be Billy Joel or whatever, you know, or fly an airplane or learn to be a fucking samurai, understand that it is an absolute fact that there is an idiot somewhere who's been doing it already for 3 years. There's a complete inept fuckhead who is amazingly unskilled in almost every aspect of their life, but they've been doing whatever your dream is every day. They wake up and do it till they go to bed at night, and that's that. There's somebody there, and you're smarter than they are, you're more skilled than they are, you're more balanced than they are. It's probably why you talk yourself out of it. So there's no excuse. So that's like, anytime I'm like, man, that's hard. Yeah, it fucking should be. And even if it is hard, there's still a lazy bastard who's doing it.
Right.
So I don't have an excuse. I have no excuses. And I don't drink or do drugs. I never have. And so I've never had that out. You know, I've never had that like, oh, I was drunk, man. I fucking fucked up. I missed it. I missed the show because I was better. Everything's on me. Always. It's always on me. And there's something kind of good about that. Something that really eventually gets into your bones where you're like, this is all on me. If it doesn't happen, it's because I didn't make it happen.
So what do you do? Because, like me, I like to relax with a beer or half a bottle of Jack Daniels.
Sure.
What do you do to relax? What do you do to clear yourself?
You know, I don't know that it's kind of like the opposite of Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, you know, where you're like, how do you, you know, don't you have to get angry? That's my secret. I'm always angry. There's an element to which I'm always relaxed.
All right.
That's sort of the professional aspect of it for me as an artist, is that if I can't do it and keep my head together, then I can't do it. And so if I can't relax or, you know, and I go periods where I'm completely fucking wound up about it, and I should. Sometimes it's 5 days long where there's just, you know, and I don't take vacations because I don't need them, and I like doing what I do and I enjoy it. I'll game, probably like video gaming is probably the closest thing I'll do to a brain checkout. Like right now I'm studying. I've got a bunch of shit to learn for tomorrow. And so what I would do is I would alternate an hour and an hour. So an hour of direct study, an hour of gaming, an hour of direct study. So I give my brain a break from memorizing and then back to it. And because if you try to do it in one big lump sum, you might do it, but you'll also drive yourself nuts in the process. Or
it's like cramming for a test that you haven't fucking looked at anything until an hour before you're supposed to take the test. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have like 10 pages of stuff to memorize for tomorrow. So you know, basically monologue. Mm-hmm. So that requires a skill set and a brain set that just, you know, whatever it takes. What does it take for you to do your job that allows you to do your job again is the trick. It's not, dude, I have to do this, so I got to be high or I got to be drunk or I got to fucking, you know, drive a fast car or whatever, like some sort of vice-ish kind of thing. If it doesn't stop you from doing it again tomorrow, knock yourself the fuck out. Who am I to say?
Right.
But if it does, then it doesn't work. You got to jettison it. If you know, and you know, I'm a big believer in that rehab has killed a ton of people. You know, I think a lot of people were maintenance alcoholics, maintenance, you know, occasionally went over the line, had more of a personality issue with most people than the actual problem with the drinking. They're just, it's not that they become an asshole when they drink, it's that they finally tell you what's wrong with you. and their family doesn't like it, right?
Right.
So a lot of people die right after rehab because they go in, they clean themselves up, they get out, they don't use for a while, and then they use at the same level that they used right before they went in. Instead of starting like they were new to it, they could probably get high with an eighth of what they were using when they went into rehab before they clean up. But they go back to their regular dose because it's a habit. That's why they call it a habit at this point, and that's what fucking kills them. And I think if we had a much more sensible view of it, the people who do use could get to a maintenance level and either wean themselves off or use as they see fit so that it's not to the detriment of themselves.
Wow, that's an interesting concept on it. Do you ever have this conversation with Dr. Drew?
Oh, fuck that asshole.
Oh, wow.
Fuck Dr. Drew. I hate that guy.
Really?
I've been. Oh yeah, he knows it. I used to be on some of his shows, and I called him on his shit. Any asshole who calls himself a doctor but would ask somebody about their drug dosage and suggest an alternate dosage on the air with a stranger you don't know and you don't know their medical history. If you would say maybe 50 milligrams instead of 100 milligrams from the point, and you call yourself a doctor, you're a fucking asshole. That's terrible. Shame on you if you do that. If you're me and you're just like, dude, it sounds like you need to cut your dose. I don't know what the fuck. That's reasonable because that's my opinion. I'm not presenting myself as a medical doctor and never have.
Right.
But if you present yourself as a medical doctor and you say to anybody they should, what their treatment should be without from a fucking phone call, are you shitting me? Eat a dick. That guy's an asshole. And there's a reason why I'm not on his shows anymore. And
how many of his shows did you do?
4 or 5.
Okay.
And I called him out on his shit the last 2 times because I just don't like him. I think he's a mistake.
Okay.
I think doctors on TV are a mistake anyways. I think it's a very personal thing. It's like you're going to talk about overall health. That's a different thing.
Right.
But the idea that you're going to diagnose people from a bunch of shit, especially, like, I guess that show the doctors, they do their due diligence and people have tests and they look at their charts almost and it's like 5 opinions. That's fine. But to do this over the fucking phone, that's fucking horrible. That's horrible. And only the greatest kind of an asshole would make that kind of a judgment to somebody that they don't personally have an interaction with and see their chart and their blood work and all their stuff to step in between. Ugh, fuck that.
Well,
guy.
Doesn't he always say though? I mean, talk to your doctor.
Yeah, but that's so do fucking ads for
right.
The ads, and those guys are assholes too.
My God.
Talk to your doctor about whether you should. We think it's a better idea that you take this pill than he does. Shut the fuck up. Like that. I understand what a cash cow pharmaceutical ads are for especially news organizations and television. They've literally once that spigot got turned on, it is almost the only thing you see. If you notice, America vacillates between drug ads and fast food, and maybe if we didn't have one, we wouldn't need the other. Half these drugs, if you find yourself craving salty food,
right.
Talk to your doctor, about whether or not Taco Bell is right for you, for fuck's sake.
But see, that's the thing is, I know Taco Bell is fucking horrible for me.
It's cat food for humans.
But it's cat
food for humans.
Every once in a while, I have $2. I have $2.
Sure.
Taco Hell is there.
Sure. But it's cat food for humans. That's what it is. It is a can of shit. Just junk it on a plate and keep the animal alive for another day so it can crank out whatever service it is supposed to provide. It is putting pulped animal into, pulped cow into cow, food so that, they'll eat themselves and get bovine, encephalitis or whatever, spongiform, mad cow disease. It's a terrible idea. It's such a terrible idea. Drive the extra mile, eat half the food. Just do it. You know what I mean? And so the fact that we, as a society have learned to shrug it off is part of the danger, is part of the thing. Now, in moderation, nothing will kill you because the human body is resilient.
Yep.
But it's only as resilient as your own responsibility reflex to take care of.
Well, it's it pisses me off. It pissed me off. I used to go to McDonald's all the time. I don't really go to McDonald's that much anymore.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they had this mini meal. It was basically the size of what it was in the 70s. And it was $3. It was perfect. It was small. You didn't need any more than that.
Right.
Yeah, it's not great for you, but it's boom, and they got rid of it.
Right.
Now it's their small is like that.
Sure.
The fries. It's shit, I don't need a pop that big.
Right.
As your regular size.
Well, that's because you have people whose insulin, situation in their body is so fucking out of whack because the insulin your body's producing so much insulin to fight off the amount of sugar that's in their body. And again, this is me not talking as a doctor. This is just somebody fucking reading and maintaining their own health. But that's one of the reasons is because people They consume so much sugar, your body responds. It's after a while, your body responds to it, the normalizing of toxicity in your body. Like if it expects a toxin, it'll create the antitoxin to balance it out. And then if you take away the poison, all of a sudden your body gets all wonky and you start getting fevers and all that kind of stuff because your body's producing antitoxin. But without the balancing effect, it becomes a toxin in and of itself. So you have to wean yourself off these kind of things over time most of the time. And for me, it's just not worth it. Like I grew up, in the South and watched everybody just blimp up and get all like the rosy cheeks you see with rednecks have and stuff, and you realize that that's because they got worms in their fucking cheeks. That like real veiny, rosy cheeks that people get. Yeah, that's a disease. That's a parasite. That's disgusting. And that's because I
never knew that was a parasite.
They eat themselves into a shithole.
Wow.
And so anyway, so I was like, it's just important. Like, and one of the reasons I don't drink is because of Gene and Paul. Gene's never been high in his life. Paul doesn't really drink. I mean, I think he drinks wine now occasionally with his food or whatever, but more because his doctor's like your heart needs to relax. Which is reasonable, and I have no problem with that. I don't do it, but that doesn't mean it's not a reasonable thing to do. Yeah. Same thing with weed. I also think that heroin users should be allowed a maintenance dose where they can eventually get to the point where they're taking enough where they don't go into shock, but they don't actually get high. Right. And eventually they can work their dose down to nothing. That's a smart human way of looking at the thing and taking care of people. But I don't do any of that shit, and I'm not going to. And the same thing is with fast food. Like, people just need to wean themselves off that salt and sugar. And because you can't even taste good food right now. Most people can't. Most people who eat fast food can't taste fucking Brussels sprouts, what they actually taste like. They just taste bitter to them because their taste buds don't work. Because it's like you've been at a loud concert and you can't fucking hear anybody in the car on the ride home. It's literally just this giant volume, thing that you experience. And then when you turn the volume down, you're like, I don't understand the subtlety of this music at all, or this, I can't hear it. It's just my ears are shot. Same thing happens to people's taste buds and their fucking, the amount of insulin they produce in their body and all that shit.
Right.
Like,
and that's why I never put salt on anything.
Yeah.
But
believe
so
me, they beat you to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pepper, on the other hand,
sure,
I'll throw pepper on, but salt never.
Yeah.
Never. Just.
Well, and there's different people have different levels of salt sensitivity and that kind of stuff. Certain people have, they get a lot more of it than others. The point is, you gotta, what allows you to do your thing tomorrow as well as you did it today, and that's
Rock Fan 861 health chat with Izzy Presley.
LOL. Right? Yeah, right. It's more like an intervention, but that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, all right. So we've had the psychological chat already, and now we're intervening on my food intake. This is awesome. I just brought you on to talk about Kiss.
I know. Right. Well, that's the thing. Being a Kiss fan versus other bands, I'm sure if I grew up an Aerosmith fan, I would feel differently about some of this shit.
Right.
But there's an element of being and specifically a Paul Stanley fan. Everybody's got their, and I like the guys, and throughout the entire run of Kiss, I've had, I love Bruce. I've met him several times. I like Bob, his brother. Guy. I love Bob's playing on Paul's solo record.
Yeah.
Totally skilled.
Side 4 of Alive 2.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm, yeah. And let's not forget Anton Fig's work with in a sideline level of it. But being a specifically like a Paul fan and going, okay, how do I give the fans what they want and deserve every night? How do I bring it? And if I can't do that, what am I doing wrong? How do I get myself back into the shape where I can do that? And Paul's been a healthy motherfucker for a very long time.
He has.
He's had his hip issues, but that's because he's burning his fucking body down, and he knows it. But that's an age-related thing that, he might have those if he was just a couch potato. So the fact that he does it by kicking 7-inch fucking heels all over the goddamn is the impressive part. And
I thought the impressive part was his manly chest mane.
Sure. Yeah, that's impressive. But also the fact that the dude has guns and has for, fucking 60 years or whatever,
Yeah.
Like that, he like, you ever see it? Do you follow him on Instagram? And it's like when he's literally,
I can't remember if I do or not.
Yeah, you should. But a lot of times he'll tweet a picture from the parking lot of his exercise studio where he goes and works out. Like, because he goes to these, like spin classes and aerobics classes and yoga and shit like that. And he's there before everybody else. He's sitting in the fucking parking lot taking selfies in the goddamn car, waiting for the place to open. That's fucking amazing. That's why Paul's my hero. You know what I mean? That's impressive, and that's something to aspire to, because the fucker's 20 years older than I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you're what, 47?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, God damn it. Good for him. And I love that guy for that reason. He's inspiring to me. And that's why I think it's important to have heroes. And, I think in our modern irony phase, people are afraid to have heroes.
So you're saying try to follow Paul Stanley and don't try to keep up with the guys in Faster Pussycat?
I don't know. Are they digging a hole? I don't understand. I don't get the reference.
They enjoy the Jack Daniels a little bit.
Well, sure, yeah.
There was a party on one of the cruises before their set. It was them and Night Ranger.
How many original guys are in
Pussycat? Tammy.
Yeah,
but these guys. Well, Ace Von Johnson's the newest guy, but he's been in the band for like fucking 9 years.
Right.
And everybody else has been in the band almost 20 years.
Right.
So they are. I mean, but.
Well, it's kind of like enough's enough to some degree. Like, I remember hearing Howard Stern as they were hanging up, like they were going to do a gig in New York. He's like, "Have fun, go gargle clamshells or whatever the fuck you guys do before a show to warm up, because they all sound like this after."
Fuck, I love Chip though. Have you met Chip?
Yeah, I met Chip.
Yeah, fucking one of the nicest guys.
Well, I think the Strength album is one of the best like examples of like smart, what I guess you would call hair metal in some ways, but just like pop metal that exists. That fucking album is great.
Yeah, Chip's an amazing fucking writer. Mm-hmm. Fucking great. But yeah, it was before one
Donnie Frigo, Derek, was it Derek Frigo? I'm blitzing on who died, their guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
He OD'd. He's like one of the guys who tried to play keep up with the guys who were really using.
Right.
And then it ate him. His dad plays violin on the Strength record at the end of the song Strength. He plays this violin solo because his dad was a virtuoso violin player or whatever. Amazing. That record fucking kicks ass. I mean, I like the New Thing record as well.
Yeah.
But that was more like they were being told by the label to come up with something a little closer to Poison. But when they start doing what they do, it's great, But again, hard to like have that, burn your voice down like that and then manage those harmonies live over time. You're gonna,
right.
You're gonna limit your output.
Yeah, and their singer Donnie, well, he's not with the band anymore. Right. But I mean, it's like, I think I've seen him sound amazing once.
Yeah,
But
again, it's hard enough. It's hard enough to do a show every night. It's hard enough to sing like that all the time. It like I've always I had a sketch comedy group back in the 90s. And I used to say it was like I was in a rowboat and I was the only one rowing to the destination. Mm-hmm. Everybody else was rowing with the current to try and help it keep us from getting there. And I was like, motherfucker, it's hard enough just rowing upstream against this shit. I don't need any help from you making this difficult.
Right.
And tons of people do that. They don't recognize that they're my thing is have all the vices you want that don't stop you from doing your thing. Everything else, just cut it short. Like I think Jeff Tate was like, touring is almost no fun for him because A, he's married, and B, he can't talk after a show. Right. He's got to go shut the fuck up and go to his room.
I actually like Queensryche with the new guy better.
I love their new
fucking
sound.
Todd Latore is fucking amazing.
He's terrific. And I've sung with Queensryche on the air in Seattle. I've done shows with Whip and those guys in Seattle, in another venue. So I had a good long conversation with Jeff about vocal maintenance while we're standing there. And he's got singer saving grace, and he's spraying it into his throat and that kind of stuff. And and he talks, he sounds like this. His voice is so low. I'm like, dude, that's got to be a mistake. That's part of what's making it hard for you is that "Hush now, don't you
Yeah.
cry."
Yeah.
Which sounds great when you're
But
recording it.
I am Geoff Tate.
Yeah.
I am a trained opera singer.
That's right, but you gotta, Sebastian keeps his voice up in the high range.
Hey, man!
Dude, this is so fucking boring. But he keeps it up in that high range to protect his vocal cords. Jeff lets it go and kind of talks because he wants to sound. I mean, sure, that's just what he has as his normal vocal, personality.
Right.
But it's not a good idea in a club. It's not a good idea to talk to people when you have a show with your voice way down like this, because your vocal cords are just flapping in the fucking wind in your throat, and that you can hear. It's worse than him singing a whole song.
Much like the last chick that I fucked, just flapping in the wind.
Well, sure, as you do. Yeah,
right.
Well, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. Is that what we're saying?
Well, hey, you got to blow one out. You got to blow one out. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But she, in like performing, with those guys and like finding when I sang with Sebastian on Celebrity Duets, I made the mistake of asking him what I should do before the song. Because what he does is he has a fisherman's friend, like a lozenge that totally gets rid of all the mucus.
Those are fucking amazing.
But those fuck me up because they dry my throat out.
Ah.
They make it my throat. I don't have a problem with mucus, so I don't.
Right.
So getting rid of it basically takes all the protective coating off my vocal cords.
Gotcha.
And just it's like making me deep throat a cheese grater. It's a mistake. And so I didn't know this beforehand. I was
they have
just
some porn for that in Thailand. By the way.
There's Rule 42, right? Whatever if anything exists, there's a porn on the internet about it.
This is true.
But I was like, I knew later not to do that. Don't ever do that again, But on that show, I literally sang with the driest throat I'd ever done when I was singing, and because I was like, okay, I'll just listen to what his technique is, and because I did treat that like school.
It's like, dude, this is fucking Sebastian Bach.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, we just sang together on Comedy Jam, which is coming out on Comedy Central. And we did You Shook Me All Night Long together, and I tell the story about doing it at Sardo's for Porn Star Karaoke. Enjoy, true story. And we're standing off. He's off stage doing his interview portion or whatever. And I'm up on stage, and we're doing mic checks and stuff. And he's off to the side, and I go, "In a darkened room, beyond the reach of God's faith, lies the wounded, the shattered remains of love betrayed," like that. And he went, "Nice." Right. But I was just literally doing it just to fuck with him, because that's one of my that's going to the gym. That's my manufactured adversity. I don't sing like that all the time in my band, obviously, but that and Quicksand Jesus, getting to that Quicksand Jesus, I'm so far away without you, getting into that note, learning to do that allows me to do what I do, because my music doesn't call for that total technique. It calls for just a notch below. And so whatever you're doing when you're doing live, you should practice a notch higher, just like weightlifting. You should, if you're like, I don't really play really super fucking fast, well then practice super fucking fast, or build the trill stuff. And then when you're playing live, you're just where you're in your pocket. Because I want to say it was Steve Vai. But he may have been quoting, one of these kind of anonymous quotes, which is that the idea of mastery is not perfection, it's abandon. That the idea of getting really good at something isn't so you can show that you're really good. It's that you don't have to care about the technique in the moment because it's so automatic. That you're so well-versed in your instrument, you can play what's in your heart as opposed to, can I go there? And I listen to, certain singers especially, who effortlessly go to a note, and you get so emotionally touched by what they're doing. But if they had to reach for it, it wouldn't emotionally affect you. It's better to drop down into your, into your heart.
Range. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But if you can raise your range up above that, there's a guy named John Cowan, who's was the singer for Newgrass Revival, bluegrass band, and whenever my voice is fucked up, I rehab it by singing along with John Cowan, because his voice is so crystal clear. It's all this like, my father said some things you learn by only doing when it comes your turn. It's like really easy going, but he goes really high at times. It's a fucking reach.
Are we talking Steelheart high?
No, but Mark Slaughter non-falsetto.
All right.
That point,
that's up there.
Yep.
That's up there.
Steelheart's power falsetto.
Yeah.
He's just doing that, ha, but he's doing it with dry vocal cords, or with wet vocal cords, so it sounds like head voice. That's what that is. And that guy fucking sings for the Doors now. I don't know if he still is, but he was actually the singer for the Doors for a while. Yeah, he was touring with the Doors.
Fuck!
Yeah.
I did. That is wild and wacky stuff. I did not know that.
Yeah, isn't that weird? So, but it was funny, like being there with Sebastian, going, okay, now that I'm singing like me, I could sing in front of him one of his lines as I do it, and be okay. And I can, and when I've sung with. People can look it up, me singing with Steel Panther and all that shit, doing Youth Gone Wild and those kind of things. And you can literally look over the years of the clips of me singing with Steel Panther, and you can chart my vocal growth watching those clips. You can go, okay, right here's where he learned to sing without fucking up his voice, and right here's where he learned, where he went above and beyond in rehearsal what he needed to do so that when he's on stage he can actually sing and enjoy himself. Like, you could see it. I can see it like rings on a fucking tree. So to me, that's always got to be the goal. You got to push beyond that point, whatever you want. Like right now, I think I'm at a D over high C that I can hit top range, and I know I've got an E in me. I know I can do it. I do it on some days, E and F over high C. Head voice, not power falsetto.
Right.
I know it's there. I've done it, and I've cheated on talent or inborn gift or vocal, just the way my vocal chords are shaped. And the trick is, I don't want to do that until I can do it again. So for the first time in my life, I'm literally working with a vocal coach weekly, so that when I play, I don't have to worry about not being able to do it again.
Have you noticed a difference since you started working with vocal coach?
Yeah, what I would notice is that going to the gym part, that I can zipper up my vocal cords into the higher range easier, and it doesn't, and my breath focus allows me to not squeeze it out of my throat, because I used to get high notes by creating the vocal pressure to go through my vocal cords, not by depth of breath and pushing air through, but by squeezing my vocal cords tighter and tighter so that less air created more note. And that's the absolute worst way to do it, right?
I think that's the only way I can do it.
Yeah, but it does actually, you can get by doing that in certain circumstances for a very long time until you can't anymore. And so the trick becomes, okay, the pressure of the air has to come from your gut. And that's what Sebastian does. He jogs and all that shit to keep his, his lung capacity very high. He's a tall guy with big rib cage, so he just straight up, he's basically a human bagpipe. The effort doesn't come from what's, bagpipes don't play those really high notes because the pipe itself squeezes when you need it to. You just block the hole and it goes through a smaller place, but the air pressure never changes.
Trust me, I'm used to having the hole blocked.
Sure. Yeah. Well, eventually, if you keep practicing, it'll still be that way. Yeah. Right. But anyways, so that's been part of the the learning curve, and it has a lot to do with the fact that when I'm doing stand up, it fucks up my voice and I have to start from scratch a lot of times. So there you go.
Yeah. You got anything you need to pimp? Or you got your weekly radio show?
Yeah.
How can
Saturdays.
people find that?
It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's progressive talk.
Chicago.
WCPT820.com, and then you can watch it at halsparks.tv, which is links to my YouTube channel. And we have a chat room in there every week, so like and subscribe that all you want to, kids. And that's all politics. Come, knuckles up, because I'm obviously you don't end up. You don't spend time on a show like Queer as Folk and then come out as a Westboro Baptist Church member. It doesn't happen. I'm obviously a liberal, but but liberal directed through what you've heard me talk about all night, which is the earned quality of life.
Right.
That the responsibility aspect of being, in a liberal democracy.
How do you look? Actually, I do want to talk about this really. How do you look at How do you look at how people were reacting? Like, people just seem like they've been overreacting to everything. And I'm not saying that that's a good or bad thing, but
no, some of it's bad. Some of it's you got to cut some people some slack because what happens is you let the extremists dictate your response to a group, and that you can't do that. You can't. You can no more look at like. The Westboro Baptist Church and hyper right-wing Christians and people who want to label and sticker records and shit like that as all Republicans. Because if you do, you'll never have a conversation with one of them that just has a different tax policy idea than you have. You know what I mean? And that's most people.
Right.
So I don't let the extremities of any group dictate how I relate to that group. And I can have a 3-minute conversation with anybody. After that, it's up to you and your personality whether we continue. But I can give everybody the distinct, kind of the dignity of being a human being. That I don't have to.
Right.
I don't have to jump right in there if somebody's wearing a Trump shirt and go, "You fucking racist!" Like that's dumb to me.
It is.
Everybody has a bunch of different reasons for why they voted. Reasons, and I will only be able to talk you out of some of those mistaken thoughts if I disagree with you by treating you like a human being, by addressing you on a level playing field. And so as a progressive, as somebody, what I would call myself like a Star Trek progressive, like eventually I want us to all have figured this shit out. And I want most of our science and technology to be spent on space exploration and technology that extends life and adds pleasure to our existence as opposed to fucking tanks and bombs and bullshit. Like that's ultimately where I see us going, and ultimately where we are going. I don't give a shit. The slope of history tilts towards freedom and progressivism. It just does. More people will get along with more people. This tribal horse shit that people seem to be attached to, and there's people on the left who do the exact same, what we'd call these social justice warrior types.
That's the people that I was getting at with this question.
I think those people are the same group that were the PMRC in the 80s. Okay. It's just they just have a different point of view. There's a certain group who think they can corral the behavior of everybody else. There's a mild difference between liberal and conservative authoritarians in that. They did a psychological test on people, and the idea is that liberal authoritarians believe in homogeny, meaning everybody must behave to and we will teach you. You will be instructed and educated into behaving like everybody behaves. We will all learn.
Believe or die.
Yes, right. Well, no, this is the believe or be shunned.
Gotcha.
Conservatives, authoritarians believe in purity, meaning that no one can be taught. If you're not part of our group, you are the outside. You are the other, no matter what. And there is no getting in, believe or die. And so there's one is slightly better than the other in that at least the effort of homogeny. Like, look, we're just trying to teach you a system where we can all get along on a baseline level. Once it goes authoritarian, you're in a problem. You get the arc up on the other side. Yeah. So my thing is that you always operate from the point of view. Second City was great this way. Second City taught you that always believe your audience is smarter than you are. And so that's really hard when you're me.
Right?
But
it's hard for a lot of people.
But it's even harder when it's not true.
Yes, trust me, I know.
Yeah, right. But the point being is that you have this gift that you owe it to every human being to give them, which is the benefit of the doubt. And even when it's painful.
Right.
Because even if you're not going to change that person, even if you know you're talking to the most ignorant asshole in the entire world, everything you say to them, you're talking past them to the people who are around them, because everybody has a support structure. Everybody tears out into a kind of a wide berth of human beings. And over time, it's like a pyramid. They may be an asshole, but the people on the outsides are, that drift away from their position are reachable. And even if you'll never agree on everything together, you can come to some kind of... And that's why, quite frankly, that the biggest problem we have in politics right now is this purity test rebellion idea that we need to... that the system is a fucking problem. That the idea that we have an establishment, the fucking establishment. Like, guess what? our form of government is an establishment. There's an establishment clause in the Constitution. We establish these truths to be self-evident. There's a freedom and secular democracy is an established idea. It didn't come from nowhere. Theocracy, monarchy came from nowhere. It came from power and killing.
Yep.
We established this out of fucking thin air, and it deserves the dignity of respect for the establishment that is there. And if there's a problem, it becomes corrupt, it becomes overrun with assholes or crony capitalism, whatever you want to call it. It's not the system's fault. It's us for poorly maintaining it.
Right.
So that's my belief. So as hardline progressive and liberal as I am, as pro LGBT rights, as pro like women's equality and all those kind of things, I can manage that conversation in a way that I can speak to people who are on the fence about it, or might even be diametrically opposed, and never call into question their humanity. That's my responsibility, and I take it very seriously.
And I think the other problem is that people are getting their news from memes.
Sure.
And and all the headlines are all clickbait. Nobody actually reads anything. It's just like, well, this said that, so
yeah.
It's like, dude, do some research and have an intelligent conversation about it.
Well, and also,
that goes on both sides.
Well, ultimately, it's easily curtailed if you simply go, what is my principled response in this?
Right.
I don't care what what the directed storyline is. Like there's tons of Republicans right now who are turning on Trump because of his Russia connections, and they're hardliners about it, and they should be. Those people are reachable. I don't agree with them on any policy nearly at all. But it is good to see them taking a hardline principled stance on certain elements. They've just gone, this is a line we don't cross. We can have any argument we want inside our own family.
Yep.
We can fucking be at each other's throats. But if you start coming in here and fucking with our family while we're having an argument, you're done. You have to have. That's where I would like. I certainly fit into what I would call a Western chauvinist mentality that often the alt-right even gets pegged with as like white nationalists or whatever. I'm a Western chauvinist. I believe that Western culture is superior. I do believe that a democracy is the best way to do it. Picking your leaders. The funny thing is all this New World Order horse shit that everybody freaks out about. You know what the New World Order was? Democracy. Yeah. It was a new way of ordering government. Before that, you know what the old world order was? His dad used to run the place. Now he runs the place, and if you ask him a fucking question the wrong way, he'll rape your wife and kill you. That was the old world order. Fuck that.
I thought that was the Illuminati.
Right, exactly. The New World Order. The reason that gets a bad rap in a lot of ways is because, and you're finding out with a lot of these like the Russian fake news guys, the people, the 1,000 bots that they had running and all this kind of thing,
right,
to create distrust in our own democracy, is the idea that dude, Vladimir Putin, and others like him, would rather the world run more like a monarchy or theocracy. Yeah. He hates having to run for election every couple of years, even if it's bullshit and he can rig it. It's a fucking pain in the ass. He'd rather stay in control. And as bad as our system can be at its worst, we still get to pick a new leader every 4 fucking years.
Yep.
And we need to stop bitching a little bit and appreciate the fact that we have a peaceful exchange of power, no matter how dumb it gets. Take it very seriously, and anybody who wants to run has to understand that this country, that this form of democracy, even if you don't think we do it better than anybody else, which is debatable. I think in some ways America is like the Les Paul of the electric guitar. We created it. Some people might be doing it better. There's Eddie Van Halen and Steve Vai out there. They might have gone, let's do parliamentary elections where if you've got a third or fourth party, you can vote for who you think will win. But if they don't win, you've got a second and third choice that might get in there. And so people can have a choice of voting green or something else. That's great. That's something we could absorb as a country,
right,
and actually use. That's terrific. That would broaden the base. It still doesn't mean people couldn't get behind the bigger parties if they want to,
right,
but it gives them an option. That's the Steve Vying of democracy, as I would call it. But there are people in this world that don't. The Chinese government, for example, the Russian government, the Iranian government, North Korea, right, that don't want that to exist at all. And so what they'll do is try to turn us on each other and get us each other's throats. And I think the best thing that you can do from a patriotic standpoint is refuse to take the bait. Is that I will shit up a tree onto Trump all I want because that he's in a position of power, he's a leader, he's the current president. If he can't take it, fuck him. That's how it is when you're in that much trouble. I will mock and deride you. But I will do it because one of my biggest sticking points is that he is shitting on the people who voted for him. And even if I don't agree with those people, I think they deserve better. And I will always, like, if I were to run for office, I would go, it would be hard to pass some of the purity tests, even on the Democratic side in some ways, because I would go, look, I may not even like some of these motherfuckers, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve to have a job and eat and care for their children the way they see fit, and and own a gun if they feel like they live out in the fucking woods and they're afraid of their neighbor, which is really what the majority of rednecks with guns are about. They know that the world is full of other rednecks with guns, and and the cops aren't coming anytime soon because the city is fucking 2 hours away. I get it, and that's okay. So again, it's all about like treating people like they're human beings.
Right.
First, if somebody checks out and they're a cunt about the whole mess, then jettison them. That's fine.
Yeah.
And it's up to you whether you give them a second chance or whatever. That's a personal thing. But I think on a principled standpoint, my feeling is and has always been that that this country and what it's based on and the idea of democracy as it stands, liberal democracy, which is what it is, the form of government that exists, is too precious to let be destroyed by the infighting about it, how it should be run.
Right.
It's too important.
Well, I mean, and this is the beauty thing is like I can sit here and disagree with you all I want, but you're coming at it with and this is neither here nor there, but it's like you come at it with research
and respect.
And respect, it's like once you start yelling at people about it, then it's like, okay, boom, this is fucking over. I mean, it's like I look at
sports teams, and and that's a mistake. Like politics is not sports, and like even on like Meet the Press, they have a post game show now about the thing. I'm like, motherfucker, it's not a game. This is how we govern ourselves. If you want to talk about games, go to a sporting event and bitch about pitchers all you want. And I love that. I think I hate sports. I don't go see sports. I don't enjoy it myself, but I do recognize, and this is a good example of kind of like disagreeing about something but still respecting its existence, is that I think the more society has games to go to and pastimes to enjoy, that's indicative of its overall health and is and is
absolutely
my going to do something else, but that other people who do love it having that option to go. I go to a Dodgers game every weekend. I go to a Twins game every weekend. I go it matters to me. The fact that we can engage ourselves and have a pastime means that's what you should shoot for.
Exactly.
You don't try to lower society to the point of poverty because other people are poor or broken. You try to get them to the point. If you're trying to help them, you're trying to get them to the point where, fuck, wouldn't it be better if they all had sports games to go to and theaters to go to and movies to see and things to do with their family and it would be lovely if Chad in Africa had a fucking Disney World. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we should shoot for, not... That's why, like, we talk... there's a lot of talk, obviously, about equality in the country right now, both with women and minorities and the like, and this is coming from somebody who has a dear love for somebody like Doug Pinnick that is and Muhammad Ali and Gene and Paul, who are both Jewish. That I don't think I think equality is a mistake. I think you have heroes who are different than you. That's what you do. Yeah. You don't go, we're all equal. Because if you say that to most people don't have a very good opinion of humanity. So they go, well, yeah, everybody's equally shit. But my group needs a little bit more protection. That's right. Equality is a mistake. You should have heroes who are different than you. And it's not hard. They're fucking amazing human beings.
Yeah.
Jet Li and Donnie Yen are emblematic of and not to mention Siddhartha and Gandhi and and Muhammad Ali, having come from Kentucky. Muhammad Ali coming out, and not because he was a great boxer, but because of what he did with his boxing career during the Vietnam War and how he put it on the shelf because of his deeply held beliefs. Yeah. That was more important. His boxing career almost became ancillary to the champion that he actually was in life. And the fact that he had his fucking body gave out, but his brain was still alive in there. And the guy kept like writing fan letters.
Yeah, handwriting
every day. Like that's how you get people to respect groups who are different than them. You make sure that they're aware of the heroes that they can have. Because equality is a mistake. Because if people have a bad opinion of themselves or of humanity in general, they're never going to bite.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you go, that motherfucker is gloriously full of intelligence and talent, then it's hard to go, none of these people are worth a goddamn.
Right. See, I mean, that's I personally look up to Adam Carolla just because of what he's been able to do since. I mean, for the podcast, saying he lost his fucking radio show and he was out there on the fucking road.
That's right.
He's like, I got to feed my family.
Yeah.
And the podcast started. All of a sudden, it turned into
an industry.
Fucking podcasts that he has.
Yeah.
His movies, his documentaries, his TV shows, and all that shit. It's like everybody's like, well, why are you driving Lyft instead of having a fucking day job? It's like, because I want to do the podcast, and I want to do this movie thing, and there's a TV thing I'd love to do.
That's right.
And I have the band.
You do what you got to do to it.
Exactly.
That's it. Doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly. And fucking Carolla became a millionaire.
Yeah. That's right.
And he's not quite at fuck me money yet, but he's at fuck you money.
Yeah.
You know? And I respect that. He busted his ass, and that's why I look up to him, and that's exactly why I do what I do.
That's right.
You know?
And he's a fucking wop.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, greasy, nasty Italian people. They're dirty, gross people. Disgusting. But, you know, occasionally they have a good one. One of them, all right, we'll let that guy. Him and De Niro, we'll let them. Okay, and Pacino, he's okay. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe there's a lot of good ones. I don't think the Pope is Italian anymore. But anyways, I don't know what's happening on WrestleMania.
Oh, that's Kurt Angle. He was
drinking semen out of tube.
He was mimicking Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, I
with
see.
The beers, except that's milk.
I see. Well, that's gross.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like milk. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, right.
It didn't look like a
milk. Yeah, that
moment.
looks like the end of one of the scenes that Aiden Ashley would do.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, because she only does girl on girl, pretty much, predominantly.
Yeah, but they use those like fake dildo strap-ons that actually shoot stuff out of them occasionally.
I have not
seen
seen
stuff?
this.
Yeah, they put this.
I gotta watch more porn.
Yeah, they like put. I don't know if it's like a protein shake or something in them or whatever, but they just it's kind of cartoonishly blasting those like anime level. So I don't know. Ask her if she's ever done that kind of stuff.
I'll ask her next time I talk to her.
Bless her heart. By the way, and kudos to porn stars everywhere for doing the heavy lifting for everybody who's out there. Again, of all the jobs in the world, you have sex for a living.
Yep.
And in the process, physically harm no one. You can make your own judgments about whether or not you think it's healthy or not. That's your own burden.
Right.
You have to discuss your own sexuality and your own issues with your own sexuality before you can even judge it based on that. But just the very act of doing it, these people, like, they're not making bullets. They're not, holding a gun to somebody's head and making them dig a hole in Sierra Leone.
Yep.
They're not working in a chemical weapons factory. They're doing zero wrong.
Yep. All they're doing is helping you get off.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm all for that.
That's right. Bless their hearts. And so, we salute them. And good luck in the future. I'm just saying. I have nothing against, that it's one of the, and that, it comes up from being a Kiss fan, the whole Knights in Satan service nonsense that we had to deal with.
Oh, my God,
It's like, it's the devil's work and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, wait, tap your fucking brakes. This is helping me. This music is helping me. This music is helping me reflect on myself and say where my shortcomings are, where I can believe in myself, and giving me some hope. And I'd still be pumping gas in Kentucky if it wasn't for that goddamn band, and bless them in every possible way.
Fucking A right.
Yeah.
Fucking A right.
Right. So the same thing with like porn stars. Like, people can have their own judgment about how much porn people whether they think it's healthy or not to watch too much of it. That's on you and your own circle, and whether you watch any. Police your shit on that. But in terms of what these people are doing, they are harming zero people in just doing what they do.
They're getting pleasure, and they're giving you pleasure.
That's right. That's right.
And I think that's what we're all trying to do.
That's right. Cut it loose, man. They're
there
people.
We go. Hal Sparks, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's
thanks
been
for
a
having
pleasure.
me.
Anytime you want to come back, you're welcome.
Man.
Hold on. Let me hit my Black Diamond outro.
Absolutely.
From Analyze Live Uncensored. Yes, of course. It is another fucking podcast. Doug Pinnick in studio next week. Make sure you hit up the Facebook pages, facebook.com/anotherfpodcast, and Izzy Presley 1 for all my few entertainment things that I do.
By KXM, by the way, the KXM record.
Yes.
The new
it is fucking
Doug
cool.
and George Lynch and Ray Luger. It's
fucking
it's,
killer.
it's better every album.
It really does.
Scatterbrain's wicked.
Yeah, really does. And, of course, the Twitter machine, Izzy_Presley, and you can help out the show monetarily. Izzy.Presley@gmail.com is your PayPal. Of course, if you have been listening to this on Spreaker, make sure you hit that follow button. If you heard this on iTunes, subscribe. Do what you can. Enjoy the show. I'll be back next week. Folks, it is true. I do, in fact, love you all.